Someone make it make sense.
Probably a couple.
Hello, everybody. Sorry about last night. We were going to go live and we lost power. We, as in me and Fredo. The weather here has been insane. Like the past several days up until last night and up until yesterday, really, it was like 90 degrees, sunny, like summer weather, like crazy. And then yesterday, and then we started having all the storms. You know, there's been storms around everywhere, right? But like, so we had like 2 nights ago, we had a crazy hailstorm out of nowhere. And then last night we had like it was actually kind of expected, but it was like basically a thunderstorm. And what was happening was like the temperature was dropping. And like now today it's like 50 degrees, but it's going to get down to like 30 or maybe even lower tonight. And now it's going to be like winter again for the next couple days. So that's fun. So right now, let's just see, I'll put it in the chat. Shout out to Twiz. Happy to see you. So yeah, I was out of power for like 6 hours or so. But it's all good. Shout out to Meg. It's all good because you know what? It gives everybody some time to digest what we heard yesterday. So yesterday I did cover these opening statements live. Like I guess like when I covered the state, it was on their lunch break, so it worked out. So but we did watch, like we were live with the court feed for Lori and for the first couple witnesses. We did an objection counter. I'm going to continue the objection counter. I'm going to pick up with that where we left off. So what I mean is we're going to watch the opening statements again, but I'm not going to count the objections twice, essentially, right? And you might say, well, why are we going to watch them again? Well, there's a couple reasons. When we're watching them live with the court feed, I try to not pause it. So I actually took like yesterday, for example, I took notes and I tried to give like a quick summary before we went back on to like the next thing because trying to keep up with the court feed. But also it's different. The state's opening statement, there's things that will be different now after having heard Lori's opening statements, right? Because there's things that she said that were directly contradicting the state. So, and so we're going to watch them though at faster speed since yesterday was on normal. So we were watching them on faster speed. And then we'll probably skip the first witness because we watched all of his testimony yesterday. And then we'll probably pick up with the second witness, which is where I had to go teach. And I was able to teach a couple lessons before I lost power. So did my phone not work? Now my phone worked. It got low on battery, but I don't think it ever died. Okay, and the other thing that's nice too, so now we're going to use the court TV feed. What's nice is they put the witness, who the witness is, they put that on the screen, which is nice because that means I don't have to do it because I know some of you guys don't like the ticker. I don't know why Twiz is saying wow. Hi, Happy Annie. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, let's just jump right on in.
So I'm going to need you to stay close to me the next couple of days. Mel, too.
That's too fast.
She can't go to Utah.
Too fast.
They're planking some kind of intervention, but want Mel out of the way.
Okay. That was 1.5. That's too fast. The planking is funny. I wonder if that's a typo and she's reading it exactly as the typo. You know, it's really funny. It's a lot like the Hoslang, right? Where it's like it's great because you have the plausible deniability of being accurate, right? Of reading the text accurately, but also it's making the person who's sending the text look really stupid. She starts out with this. I don't even think I noticed that yesterday. It was so much.
So I'm going to need you to stay close to me the next couple days. Mel, too. She can't go to Utah. They're planking some kind of intervention.
Definitely. That was on purpose. I did not catch that yesterday. Did you guys catch that yesterday? I will also say that there wasn't the CC available. So that's what caught my attention, but I also did hear it. Twiz, why are you saying wow? Yeah, Meg's gonna go lie down. That's fine. We'll probably still be live when you get up.
But want Mel out of the way, so I'm left alone. I need to come get the stuff at your house tomorrow and secure it. Lots to do. Thanks for standing by me. It's all coming to a head this week. I will be like Nephi, I am told, and so will you. Lori Daybell, the woman seated over here, wrote this to her brother, Alex Cox, on July 9th of 2019, 2 days before they killed Charles Vallow. But to understand why this is so meaningful, why this is relevant, you have to understand the context. So let's talk about it. In July of 2019, Lori Vallow was married to Charles Vallow. Lori Vallow lived here in Arizona, Chandler. Charles Vallow lived in Texas. In July of 2019, Lori Daybell was Lori Vallow, married to Charles Vallow. In July of 2019, Lori Vallow wanted to be Lori Daybell, wife of Chad Daybell. And in July of 2019, Lori Vallow wanted to keep the same lifestyle that she had with Charles. And she could get all of this if Charles was dead. She could marry Chad Daybell and become Lori Daybell. She would get $1 million life insurance policy from Charles Vallow. She would get Social Security for herself and their son, JJ, as a child of a dead spouse. And all of this would be true if Charles Vallow was dead. So what about Nephi? Well, Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, and Alex Cox all believed that those who disagreed with them were dark, possessed by evil spirits, sometimes called Z's
yesterday
or zombies.
Disagreement part.
Sometimes they had names for these evil spirits, like Ned. Lori, Chad, and Alex used religion, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and a story of Nephi, a prophet, who was directed by the Holy Spirit to kill Laban, to obtain brass plates and secure the long-term prosperity of Nephi's descendants. Lori used this religion and the story of Nephi as justification to kill Charles Vallow, just like Nephi killed Laban. On July 9th of 2019, Lori Vallow invoked Nephi when she messaged Alex to provide them with that religious authority to kill Charles. After months of trying to get rid of him, they were finally ready to be like Nephi. So how did this begin? We go back to 2018. Lori Vallow met Chad Daybell. You will learn that in November of 2018.
Also, so yesterday, Twiz tested me yesterday. So yesterday, guys, I was live for like 1 million hours straight. So I think when Twiz, when you texted me yesterday, like morning for you, I'm sure I was live. I had the members only live stream went forever. And then I went straight into that. Didn't I go straight into that? I feel like I went straight into that into another stream. Or well, almost did. I'm trying to even remember. Oh no. Then I was filming a repot video for Orchids, and then I went live again with Lori. I might be forgetting a stream. There was a lot back to back. So anyway, but then I had a couple lessons and then I lost power. So so Twiz, why can't you drive though? Are you saying you can't drive to Boise? Bloise?
Chad Daybell.
Sorry, I have to make a joke. Bloise, as the French would call it.
Daybell. You will learn that in November of 2018, that Chad Daybell came to Arizona for a Preparing the People conference. And he and others stayed at Lori and Chad's house. Charles was actually out of town with JJ. Lori and Chad acted as if there was nothing between them, but nothing could be further from the truth.
Bump her up.
By January of 2019, Lori Vallow claimed that Charles Vallow was possessed by an evil spirit that she called Ned.
Ned.
You will see text messages where Lori and Alex refer to him as Ned. During this trial, you're going to hear from some women who initially were close in Lori's circle. These women will tell you they met her through the Preparing the People conference. They are spiritual women within the LDS Church. And initially, they found Lori's spirituality infectious. But the more they listened to Lori, the more they started to find concern with what she was saying. One of them called it red flags. Lori began saying things like she didn't need to repent, that she was beyond that. And you'll hear from these women that that goes against everything that their religion follows. Everyone must repent. You will hear from Serena Sharp that in March of 2019, she attended a girls' weekend with Lori and some other women. They went to the temple, they had lunch, they did volunteer activities, and then Lori asked them to do something a little unusual. She told them that her husband was possessed by an evil spirit, and she referred to that as Ned. She told them that Charles was no longer in his body. She asked them to come together and try to cast out this evil spirit. Serena will tell you that she didn't ask Lori what would happen to Charles.
Ned Schneider, where did they come up with the, like that's not a biblical. That's not a Book of Mormon name.
If that evil spirit went,
It's just
she only knew that she had said Charles was already gone. She didn't know if he would come back or his body would just.
I wish someone would let me know why Twiz can't drive to Bloise. I'm start calling it that.
Later that month, on March 26th of 2019, Alex Cox texted his sister, Lori Vallow, and said, quote, "Ned is still alive, just confirmed." Lori responded, "It's not Ned. It's a new one. Ned is gone. No one has seen him, right? Just talk to him, question mark." Alex said, "Correct. Charles' body is alive." "What did you learn, question mark?" And Lori responded, "A lot. Still working on it. We'll call you later." As the year went by, Lori and Alex became more determined to get rid of Charles Vallow's body, whatever they wanted to call him. You will hear from Christina Atwood that she attended a gathering on June 9th of 2019. Again with Lori and some close friends, but this time Alex Cox attended. This was the first time she had met him. Christina will tell you that she heard Alex say that he just wanted to kill Charles. In fact, she heard him say this a couple times. And she heard Lori say, in response, that she had been drugging Charles, crushing up JJ's pills and putting them in Charles's protein drinks. Christina will tell you she was so disturbed by this that she actually went and confronted Lori the next day and told her that if Charles ended up dead, she would have to go to the police. That's how disturbed she was. Now, Lori, of course, said it was all a joke. What else could she say? But 1 month later, Alex and Lori created that situation be like Nephi and killed Charles. What about Charles? You're going to learn that Charles and Lori had been together for a long time. They had adopted one of Charles's family members' children, JJ. JJ was everything to Charles. JJ was the reason Charles and Lori were still together. You'll learn that Charles knew about Lori's beliefs, that he was called Nick or Ned or some name. You will learn that Charles told a lot of people about this. And on February 26th of 2019, Charles made a big decision. He had a $1 million life insurance policy, and his wife, Lori Vallow, had been the beneficiary. He changed it. He changed it to his sister, Kay Woodcock. You will learn he did not have to notify Lori about it, and she had no idea. You'll learn that Charles desperately wanted to bring Lori back to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You will learn that he was close with Lori's brother, Adam, and he was reaching out to him during this time period. You will hear from Adam. Adam will tell you that he himself had heard the defendant say things that were outside the LDS religion, that she was translated. Charles was possessed. He knew she was no longer following the LDS faith. Then, June 28th, Charles found out that Lori and Chad were having an affair. You will hear that he reached out to Lori about it, Chad's wife, and out to Adam Cox about it. Now, you're going to hear about a lot of these things because the police executed numerous search warrants. You're going to hear that they executed search warrants on cell phone records, cell tower records, and iCloud accounts. You're going to learn that an iCloud account is basically a service through Apple where you can store everything, photos, emails, documents, whatever you want. This can be intentional, or sometimes it can be unintentional. Your phone or your computer may be saving items there without you even realizing it. You'll learn that for years, Lori Vallow had an iCloud account that was Lori for Style at iCloud.com. But after Charles learned about Chad Daybell on that June 28th, she created a new iCloud account, Lollytime at iCloud account. Many of these text messages between Lori and others that you're going to hear about at trial were recovered from those two iCloud accounts. You're also going to learn about Charles's cell phone. The police eventually recovered it, and they were able to extract the data, look at the messages and things that had been in there. And you're going to learn about those text messages with Adam Cox from July 9th through the 11th. You're going to hear from Adam that they were talking about an intervention, about maybe recording Lori, saying these things and taking those recordings to the stake president, or just confronting the stake president about it. They didn't have an exact plan. But on July 9th, Adam agreed to fly to Phoenix to help try to talk to his sister, talk to the stake president, get her back into this faith. Ultimately, Adam flew to Phoenix on the 10th, as did Charles. Adam will tell you that he actually, when he got his reservation on the 9th from Charles, reached out to his brother, Alex. He asked to stay with him. And Alex said, sure. You'll see phone records. They had a conversation about it. But when Adam flew into Phoenix on the 10th, remember, that's after that message by Lori that he needed to stay close to her. Adam tried texting his brother. Adam tried calling his brother. And Alex didn't respond. Adam didn't know that his brother Alex had been summoned to help his sister Lori be like Nephi, that it was time to kill Charles. The text messages from Lori to Alex about that intervention that she knew about and being like Nephi show that by the evening of July 9th of 2019, Lori knew that Charles was trying to have an intervention. In that text message, remember, she said they are trying to have an intervention. She knew it was Charles and others. She also told her brother he had to stay close for the next couple days because she knew that she was going to be seeing Charles on the 11th when he came over to pick up their son, JJ, to take him to school. She told him, it's all coming to a head this week. I will be like Nephi, I am told, and so will you. A few minutes after Lori had texted Alex that message on July 9th that they were going to be like Nephi, Alex called his sister Lori, and they talked for over 56 minutes, planning how they were going to get rid of Charles. Alex would stay close with his gun, and he and Lori would be like Nephi. July 10th of 2019 is the day before Charles was killed. We know from text messages that by 7:18 p.m., Alex was already at Lori's house. He brought a garbage bag with some clothes and an orange duffel bag with his .45 caliber handgun and 2 extra magazines of ammunition. He was prepared. We also know that the evening of July 10th, Charles sent a message to Lori letting her know that he would be over at 7:30 a.m. the next day to pick up JJ, to take him to school. Lori and Alex knew exactly when this murder would happen and where it would happen. They just had to make sure that Charles stayed in the house. You'll hear that on the evening of July 10th, Charles spent his last night alive on a date. He had been on several dating apps and appeared to be moving on. You will hear from his date, Nancy Jo, that she and Charles had met on an LDS dating site a few days before. You will hear that she had talked to him and texted him for hours. Sometimes they would talk for 3 hours on the phone. Nancy Jo will tell you that Charles told her about everything of his relationship, his wife's beliefs, everything that was going on. And he had told her about this change to the beneficiary of his life insurance. She will tell you it sounded like a lot of drama, but she still was interested and wanted to meet this person. And so they met that evening for dinner.
I agree.
She'll tell you that she
the bar is really low, but I do agree. I mean, it's far and away the best pro se I've seen, you know. Having said that, there was that one pro se defendant. I didn't watch that case, but it was, or that trial, but it was in Florida. And he got, I think he either got acquitted or he got a hung jury. But it was the one, I forget which one that was called, Key West, something in Key West. I didn't watch it, but so I can't see, he might be the only other comparable one. But I'm not even entirely sure. I think he might have gone pro se halfway during trial or something. Again, I wasn't watching it. I just saw like updates about it. But so for Lori so far, yeah. I mean, you can't compare it to like the other ones. So
understood on the 11th that Charles would be picking up his son, that he was actually going to meet a realtor about finding a place to rent here so he could be closer to JJ, and that he was going to try to get in touch with Adam to meet up. And then they were supposed to meet later in the day. She will also tell you that she actually told Charles, kind of joking, but
okay,
in the drama, how don't you just tell Lori that you changed the life insurance policy so she knows it's not her? Nancy Jo will tell you the next day, she texted Charles, she called him, and she actually thought he had ghosted her. She didn't know he was dead until a few months later when she saw something on the news, a photo of him, and actually learned that he had been killed on July 11th. So let's talk about July 11th.
Thank you. That's right. It was
that morning. Vallow was up early and she was texting with Chad Daybell. You'll learn that we do not have those text messages. They were not saved in the iCloud, but we have them from the phone records. Alex was already at Lori's house with his gun, and everyone knew.
I just will say, I also love hiking. Have you guys heard my story when I went hiking on Grandfather Mountain? That's a really good one. I don't know if I've told that story ever, actually. That's a really good one. So Twiz, I'm asking if you're going like on the bike, you know, I would imagine like on an exercise, have I ever ridden an exercise bike? I may have only done a real bike, but anyway, like, you know, I would imagine that you can either like increase the resistance on the pedal so that it's like harder to pedal, right? Like as if you're going uphill, Or I would imagine that you can put the resistance lower and go for a faster cadence, which is your speed at which you're pedaling, right? You know, think of it as like if you're on a fixed gear bike. So because, you know, it's just like with any other exercise equipment, right? There's different ways you can change it. So I was just asking because I was curious. Well, yeah, but you can program the bike to do different things, right? Like if you want to go faster, you can do less resistance. If you're doing the auto setting, it probably has some resistance on there. But anyway, sometimes you burn more calories if you do less reps, right? Like, but if you go slower, for example, but if you have more resistance, but if that's what you're going for. No, Meg hasn't heard the story. So, yeah, thank you. So did you watch that trial, Happy Annie? If you did, let me know how he did, and if he was pro se the entire time. Oh, okay, I see. Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, that's awesome. So, you know, I hope that it went better than last time. I would imagine it's probably going to get better for you every time you go and do it at the gym. Oh, every time you go, you add 1 to resistance. Gotcha. Okay, there you go. So yeah, you should expect to then burn more calories if you go for the same amount of time on the bike. I'll tell the grandfather mountain story, but I'm gonna wait. Maybe I'll wait until after opening statements. That'll be a good point for that.
Knew that Charles was a punctual person, would be there around 7:30 to pick up JJ so he could get to school. You're going to learn that, like many people, Charles had left his GPS data locating service on his phone. So that means when his phone is moving around, it was constantly documenting with GPS the location of the phone. During this trial, you're actually going to see this data mapped out. You'll be able to see Charles come to the house, and then you're going to see his phone leave with the defendant and what she does all day with it. What we know is that Charles arrived at Lori's house at about 7:35. He texted Adam Cox and told him that Alex, or Al, is here. You'll see from photos that Alex's truck was parked in the driveway. Adam responded, "Really, I wonder why he never called me back." Charles didn't respond to that. Adam then texted, "They're planning something." Charles responded, "Absolutely." Adam told Charles, "I was supposed to spend the night at his house last night. She probably blocked that." Charles told Adam, "What you do is up to you." Adam then told Charles he was going to reach out to Alex and ask him to come get him and see what Alex would do. And in fact, he did text his brother. You'll learn that Charles read that text message from Adam.
I wonder when Adam's going to testify.
Adam sent one more text message to Charles at 7:49 a.m. on July 11th. He told him that he and his son were going to go play basketball at 8 p.m. to look for a specific church leader who was usually there and have a conversation with him. Charles Vallow never read that message, but you will learn that Lori and Alex did. Charles went to the front door of 5531 South Four Peaks Place, a house that he had rented for his wife, Lori Vallow, a house that he paid for. Charles would have had to knock on the door, alerting Lori and Alex that he was there. He got JJ, put him out in the car. And then Lori Vallow created the reason to keep Charles from just leaving with JJ. Lori Vallow wanted to stop this intervention. Lori Vallow wanted to stop Charles and Adam from trying to take her temple recommend away. Lori Vallow wanted to be Lori Daybell. And Lori Vallow wanted Charles's money. So Lori took Charles's cell phone, and she refused to give it back. Lori Vallow, or Lori Daybell, whatever name you want to call her by, is why Charles didn't just leave with JJ that morning. Lori Vallow,
the shade.
Alex.
The freaking shade on that is my favorite.
And Lori Vallow wanted Charles's money. So Lori took Charles's cell phone.
Hold on.
Lori Vallow wanted to stop this intervention. Lori Vallow wanted to stop Charles and Adam from trying to take her temple recommend away. Lori Vallow wanted to be Lori Daybell. And Lori Vallow wanted Charles's money. So Lori took Charles's cell phone, and she refused to give it back. Lori Vallow, or Lori Daybell, whatever name you want to call her by, is why Charles didn't just leave with JJ that morning. Lori Vallow is why Alex was able to shoot Charles. Lori Vallow is why Charles is dead. I want to tell you a little bit about the scene of this house so you can understand what's happening here. When you walk in the front door, there's a big room. It was empty, no furniture. There were mirrors on 2 of the walls, windows on a 3rd wall, and the 4th wall had doorways going into the kitchen and a hallway off to the bedrooms. This is where Charles Vallow was killed. This is where Alex Cox shot him 2 times. The first shot to Charles Vallow was to his chest. It exited out his back. Charles Vallow fell to the ground. He put his left hand to this wound, and blood transferred onto it. You will hear from the medical examiner that this shot went through his heart, and that a person can take seconds to up to 2 minutes to die from that type of wound. You will hear that a person can still talk and move after they're shot in the heart. And we know Charles was able to move since he put his dominant left hand on his chest and transferred that blood to his hand. You will see that. As Charles lay on the floor of 5531 South Four Peaks Place, Alex Cox stood at his feet and fired a second shot. That shot entered his abdomen, and it exited his left shoulder. The angle was significantly upward. Dr. Baumgartner, who is the medical examiner, will tell you that this wound was shored. You will learn that shored means that there was something hard behind that wound. So when the bullet exited it, it caused a different tearing pattern than the other wound that exited Charles's back. It is this shored wound, this exit on Charles's left shoulder, that shows us that there was nothing accidental about this second shot. You will learn from the cell phone that at 7:49, Lori left Charles's house, or left her house with Charles's cell phone, his wallet, his rental car, and JJ and Tylee. She drove to Burger King, Walgreens, dropped JJ off at school before she and her daughter Tylee drove back to the house. During this time, while Lori is driving around in Charles's car with his phone, she spoke with her brother Alex twice. The first call was at 7:52 a.m., 3 minutes after she left. The second call was at 8:06 a.m., 17 minutes after she left. You will hear that when Alex and Lori are talking, neither of them had called 911 yet. In fact, you will hear that Alex didn't call 911 until 47 minutes after Lori left. Charles Vallow lay dead on the floor of that house for 47 minutes before he called 911. During this 47 minutes, Alex began staging the scene and making mistakes. You're going to learn that the police found a bat that was located on the right side of Charles to the north of his head. Like he had been holding it, and when he was shot, it fell, it dropped. It rolled
This part's important
one of the
about
walls
that.
that had mirrors on it. What you're going to learn that is Alex forgot that Charles was left-handed. In fact, you're going to learn that Charles was a semi-professional baseball player. He pitched and he batted left-handed. So that bat was on the wrong side.
He batted left-handed.
Next, you're going to hear about an injury to Alex himself. Lori had told police that Charles hit Alex in the head with this bat before Alex shot Charles. Classic self-defense. But in all cases, we must look at the physical evidence because it doesn't lie. And the physical evidence doesn't have a bias or a memory loss. Sometimes it's the lack of physical evidence that doesn't lie. So again, we know that this room where Charles was shot had no furniture, mirrors, 2 walls. You'll learn that although Lori claimed that Charles hit Alex with that bat and then Alex shot him in self-defense, that Alex's gun had no blood transferred on it. Alex was allegedly struck in the head with a bat by a semi-professional baseball player. Doesn't go unconscious, and he never touches that injury. Pulls out a gun, is able to shoot this man twice, and then he takes the gun down a hallway and puts it into a room. Never apparently touching his head or this wound. And again, Lori says that Alex was hit with the bat in this room by Charles. But again, what we don't see is any blood on the floor. Charles strikes Alex in the head with a bat. They're grappling on the ground. There's not a single drop of blood on the ground in that room. There's pooling of blood around Charles as he lay there on the ground. There's not a drop of blood going down the hallway to where Alex put the gun. There's not a drop of blood in the room where Alex put that gun. There's not a drop of blood on the floor in the kitchen where Alex went to go wash his hands. There are no towels, sheets, clothing, napkins with blood on them where Alex was holding his head and trying to stop this bleeding from this injury. You will see on body-worn camera Alex Cox, who's on with 911, come out of the house. He will have a phone in one hand and his other hand up, and you will notice that he actually has a pair of sunglasses resting on the top of his head. You will see at some point, Alex sits down and they ask him to move to another location. They talk to him for a while, and then you'll see him eventually touch his head a few times, and then he obtains a napkin or towel, something, and you'll see him at times rubbing his head, patting it. That is the only bloody item you will see. Those sunglasses on Alex's head. He is struck in the head by a baseball player while grappling on the ground. He then pulls out a gun and shoots his brother, puts away this gun, deals with his injury, and yet those sunglasses are still right there on the top of his head. No blood on the floors, no blood on the gun, no damage to the mirrors, bat on the wrong side, a lack of physical evidence to help support this self-defense claim. Next, trajectory. The medical examiner will talk to you about the trajectory through Charles's body. The detectives are going to talk to you about the trajectory through the room. Dr. Baumgartner will tell you that the trajectory of that first shot to Charles, the one that went through his chest, through his heart, and out his back, was front to back and slightly downward. It will be less than an inch downward. The detectives will tell you that the bullet from that shot, actually, as it exited Charles's back, ended up across the room in the baseboard. They pulled it out and recovered it. Both of them will say that this shot is consistent with Charles being standing upright with a person in front of him. The gun could be slightly down, or his hand could cause that little bit of downward angle. Dr. Baumgartner will tell you that that second shot that entered Charles's abdomen and exited his left shoulder, that the trajectory of that shot was front to back and significantly upward, 13 inches upward. Dr. Baumgartner is also the one who will tell you about that sword wound. What you will hear from the detectives, though, is that when they found Charles on the ground, off to the side of his left shoulder was the other bullet on the ground, not embedded. They'll also tell you that when they finally moved Charles, they took his body away, they cleaned up the blood on the ground, and they noticed a defect in the flooring, in the wood, consistent with a bullet striking the ground. That defect was located where Charles's left shoulder had been. You will hear that both Dr. Baumgartner and the detectives found the trajectory. The wounds were consistent with Charles laying on the ground, Alex being at his feet when that second shot was fired. The physical evidence does not lie. Charles was on the ground when Alex Cox fired that second shot. The injuries to Charles, the location of the bullet strikes, the trajectory of the injuries both in Charles and in the house all show this was not self-defense. This was a staged murder scene. I told you that Lori Vallow left the house at 7:49 a.m., and we know this because of Charles Vallow's cell phone. The 911 call was placed at 8:36 a.m., 47 minutes later. The police arrived at 5531 South Four Peaks Place at about 8:41 a.m. Lori Vallow and her daughter Tylee returned to the house at 8:48 a.m. When the police first contacted Lori Vallow, they thought she had no idea that her husband was dead, that he'd been shot and killed. Initially, you will see body cam footage of an officer going up and just getting her information. Lori doesn't ask, why are all these police here? Why is there a fire truck here? Why is my brother sitting on the ground over there? Or is he okay? Instead, she comments about her neighbors. You'll learn that the police then pulled her aside to do what they call a death notification, to let her know
about the neighbors
her
was so
husband was dead.
interesting.
Only
So
to
when
their
he
surprise,
asked them-
she told them she knew she was there. So at this point, the police knew they needed to take her to the police station and question her. You'll learn that Lori Vallow was interviewed by the police. She was treated very kindly. The police asked her what happened. Lori Vallow told the police that she took Charles's cell phone. She admitted that she was the reason that Charles didn't just leave and take JJ to school. She told police in no uncertain terms that Charles was demanding his phone back, and she refused to give it back. She told the police that even as Charles screamed at her for his phone, she walked away from him, wouldn't give it to him. No matter what happened or what Charles said or did, she would not give his phone back to him. Lori told police that her daughter Tylee came out of the room during the screaming with a bat, that Charles took it away from Tylee, and Tylee fell on the ground, and she told Tylee to go out to the car with JJ. She still didn't return the phone. She told police that Alex came out, that he and Charles got into this scuffle with the bat, that Charles hit him in the head with the bat. She still didn't give Charles back the phone. What she did instead was take his phone and go around that wall into the kitchen. Left the situation. Time to let brother Alex be Nephi. While she's in the kitchen, she said she heard the gunshot, came out, saw Charles on the ground, and her brother standing at Charles's feet. Then she told the police she left. You'll learn that the police actually had no idea that Lori still had Charles's phone. Even when they're interviewing her, she still had it.
So a couple of things. So yesterday at the members only live stream, I was going to go live again with Tylee's interview. And the reason I didn't is because she only talks for like 10 minutes or whatever. So didn't make sense to have a whole live stream, but we will watch that as well as Alex's interview. Just to answer a couple questions here, official, I can change the commands, but I can change your command. And yes, her brother is involved. He's deceased, which is why he was never charged. But the people who all conspired to kill for all these murders. So for Idaho, for the death of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy Daybell, that was Lori, Chad, and Alex, the brother. And had he been alive, he would have been charged as well. But Lori and Chad have already been convicted. And then for Arizona, again, if Alex had been alive, he would have been charged as well. But they did initially bring charges against Chad as well as Lori, but then they dropped the charges against Chad. So legally speaking, Chad's not been charged with this, but there's no question that Chad, Lori, and Alex were conspiring for all of these deaths. So the death of Charles here in Arizona, as well as obviously Tylee, JJ, and Tammy in Idaho. So as far as this one goes, for Charles's death, the story that they're trying to sell, by they I mean Lori and Alex, is that Alex shot Charles in self-defense to protect Lori and Tylee from Charles, who was getting mad with the bat, right? So, but what we're going to do is we're actually going to bop on over to Lori's opening statement. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I have been charged with a crime.
And again, we watched the entire prosecution opening statement yesterday. So.
A serious crime. And the only question here is, did I commit this crime? Conspiracy. Conspiracy is an agreement between two or more people to commit a crime. Okay, so you see. Okay.
So Lori did have the death penalty. Chad did get convicted and is sentenced to death. The reason that the death penalty came off the table for Lori is we've talked about this at length because it comes up with Brian Koberger, but it was due to late disclosures from the state. Like less than a month before her trial, they turned over a bunch of new evidence, and so due to that, that's why the death penalty was taken off the table for Lori. Had nothing to do with Arizona. That's separate. So that's why the death penalty came off the table. It was in a way, it was like a sanction, kind of, but it was like with the in Idaho, right? They have the motion to preclude the death penalty there that I expect to get denied because of the fact that they're citing a lot of the same things. They're citing late disclosure, but it's months before trial. And the distinction with Lori was that it was less than a month before her trial. So it was the late disclosures is why the death penalty came off the table for her.
There has to be an agreement. There has to be a plan. The evidence in this case will show that Charles Vallow and I got married in February 2006. It will show that it was my fourth marriage and Charles' third marriage. At that time, we each had 2 children. I had Colby, who was 9, and Tylee, who was 3. Charles had Cole, who was also 9, and Zach, who was 7. The evidence will show that our family moved from Austin, Texas to Chandler, Arizona in 2009. The evidence will show that Charles and I adopted our great nephew, JJ, who was born in 2012. It will also show that Charles and I were married for over 13 years and were raising 5 children. The evidence will show that I was a licensed cosmetologist and worked as a hairstylist for 20 years while we lived in Austin, Texas. The evidence will show that Charles was a licensed life insurance salesman and worked as an independent contractor, selling life insurance policies and annuities, and owned his own business. The evidence will show that Charles and I purchased life insurance policies early in our marriage, and Charles had them issued to the maximum amount possible to each of us. The evidence will show that Charles was 17 years older than me, and that because of Charles' age and an issue that he had with high blood pressure, the maximum amount of life insurance that could be approved for Charles was $1 million. The maximum amount of life insurance that I could be approved for because of my age and my health was $2 million. The evidence will show that throughout our 13-year marriage, that we always had life insurance policies. When a 10-year policy lapsed, Charles would stop shop for another company who would approve us for the maximum amount of life insurance. The evidence will show that this was Charles' job. This is what he did. I helped him in this business, and this is what he did. The evidence will show that in 2016, Charles repurchased a new $2 million life insurance policy on me, and he was the sole beneficiary. The evidence will show that Charles and I had a happy marriage for 13 years, that he was, in fact, a baseball player, and that he played high school, college ball, and AAA ball, and that he was, in fact, a left-handed pitcher, a southpaw, they call him, but he was a right-handed batter, as could be attested to by anybody who knew Charles well and his high school baseball coach, Greg Davis.
So is she going to call Greg Davis? That's interesting, though, because, again, that directly contradicts what the state said.
The evidence will show that Tylee was, and in 2014, our family moved from Chandler, Arizona to Kauai, Hawaii. We lived there for 3.5 years and returned to Chandler in 2017. The evidence will show that Tylee was 3 years old when Charles and I got married, and that when she became a teenager, the relationship between Tylee and her stepfather, Charles, became so difficult that Tylee and Charles had to seek a therapist, a family therapist, to stop them from fighting. The evidence will show that together, Charles and Tylee met with this therapist after we moved back to the mainland in 2017. The evidence will show that in April of 2018, Tylee's biological father passed away from a heart attack. And at that time, Charles called Social Security and made an appointment at the Social Security office.
Object to hearsay.
Sustained.
It will show that we did get Social Security for Tylee for her deceased father until she was 18 years old, and she was 15 years old at the time. The evidence will show that Charles and Tylee's fighting increased greatly in January of 2019 when Charles and I temporarily separated. The evidence will show that several people witnessed these terrible arguments between Tylee and Charles that increased to physical in 2019. Charles and Tylee had major increasing arguments, two in February of 2019, one of March in 2019, which was captured on video, one in May of 2019, one in June of 2019, and then the worst of all in July 2019. The evidence will show that in March of 2019, Charles pulled JJ out of his special school and moved him to Houston, Texas, while we were temporarily separated. Tylee and I then joined Charles and JJ in Texas in April of 2019 to reconcile. The evidence will show that JJ was diagnosed with severe autism when he was 3 years old while we lived in Hawaii. The evidence will show that for 2 years, JJ was attending a school in Gilbert, Arizona, a special school for children with autism. It's called Lauren's Life Academy. The evidence will show that in June of 2019, in JJ's best interest, Tylee, JJ, and I moved back to Chandler, Arizona to re-enroll JJ back in Lauren's Life Academy since he had a difficult time with the Houston, Texas schools with no services for his autism. The evidence will show that Charles and I agreed it was in JJ's best interest to be in school where more services were available to him, so Charles and I rented a house here in Chandler. On the day in question, July 11th, 2019, Charles and I were renting 2 houses, one in Houston, Texas, where he mainly resided, and one in Chandler, Arizona, where I resided with our 2 minor children, Tylee and JJ. By this time, our 3 older boys, Colby, Cole, and Zach, were adults and not living at home any longer. The evidence will show that during the months of June and July, that my husband, Charles Vallow, began to send me threatening text messages. These messages were seen by my sister Summer, and that worried her.
Seen by my sister Summer, and that worried her. So remember, she, as we keep hearing her say, the evidence will show. So in opening statements, right, they have to say, they can't just make stuff up, right? It has to be with the, so what's interesting is in opening statements, sometimes we can get a hint as to if the defendant will take the stand or not. And I think that this is really interesting to think about with Lori, because some of the things that she's saying, it's like, how is she going to get this in? I commented on this yesterday. We were watching. I'm like, how is this going to come in? What evidence is there of this, right? So, but for this one, it sounds like she doesn't have the text messages, because what she's saying is that her sister saw them. So this would sound like she's expecting her sister to testify that she saw these text messages. But it's like, that's not nearly as good, though, is it, as having the text messages? So
the evidence will show that Charles insisted on flying into Phoenix on July 10th, as we've heard from.
Well, Summer, her sister, Summer Shiflett, is still, from what we know, pretty friendly with Lori. Like, Lori's got a big family, right? Lots of siblings. And the family is pretty divided, right? And like Adam, her brother, who has been referenced in these opening statements and will be testifying at trial, and her grunkle Rex, as they call him, he's Lori's mom's brother. The two of them have a YouTube channel and a podcast, and they are the two that have come out as like, clearly she's guilty. You know, they were seeing all the red flags, and Adam was, you know, as we've heard, right? Adam was like talking to Charles, like they're up to something. He had that instinct that something bad was gonna happen. Whereas a lot of the rest of the family has either been sort of in support of Lori or has just not really said anything, which you could take their silence however you want. But Summer Shiflett was still really in Lori's camp, if you will, like throughout the whole thing with the disappearance. And I don't think she's spoken out at all, but she is expected to testify, or she's on the witness list for this case, I think for both the state and the defense.
State. The evidence will show that I advised Charles that he could not stay with us at the Chandler house because he could not get along with Tylee, and I did not want them to get into another fight like they had 3 weeks prior. The evidence will show that it was ultimately decided between Charles and I on text messages that he would stay in a hotel because he traveled for business all the time and stayed in hotels all the time, and that I would book it for him since I worked for him and booked all of his travel. The evidence will show that Charles did in fact fly into Phoenix on Wednesday, July 10th, and stayed in the hotel that I booked for him.
And just to clarify something, or not clarify, but just elaborate, the advisory council, for example, the way that she's doing these opening statements by saying the evidence will show, clearly her advisory council told her, like, here's what opening statements are, and here's how you have to construct them. They clearly helped her with this. And, you know, a good attorney obviously is not going to just repeat the evidence will show a million times. They will find other ways to say that so that it's not redundant. But it is technically correct because you can't just say stuff. Again, opening statements are a little bit different than closing argument, because in closing argument, then you can argue. So, you know, you think of the opening statements as like a roadmap. That's why it's like the evidence will show this, the evidence will show this, right? And then, you know, again, in closing arguments, you have a little bit more leeway. It'll be interesting to see how Lori handles those. But clearly she had a lot of help. Her advisory council was her actual counsel until she went pro se.
The evidence will show that Charles paid to fly my brother Adam Cox into Phoenix from Kansas on the same day, Wednesday, July 10th, 2019. The evidence will show that Charles planned to come to our Chandler home and pick up JJ and drive him to school on Thursday morning, July 11th, 2019. The evidence will also show you that Lauren's Life Academy opens its gates at 8:25 a.m. in the morning. And the evidence will show that Charles showed up at our Chandler residence around 7:30 in the rental car I booked for him on the morning of Thursday, July 11th, 2019. The evidence will show that Charles began texting with my brother, Adam Cox, before he entered our residence. And that Charles and Adam were discussing in their text communications that my other brother, Alex Cox, was at the residence. The evidence will show that on the morning of July 11th, that Tylee was asleep in her room and my brother, Alex, was asleep in the guest room. The evidence will show that when Charles entered the house, only JJ and I were awake and present. The evidence will show that after we put JJ in the rental car, that Charles came back into the residence to receive his phone, leaving JJ in the front seat of the rental car with the engine running. He was 7 years old. The evidence will show that Charles began to scream at me when I refused to hand him his phone. The evidence will show that Charles screaming woke up Tylee and Alex.
So that's an interesting one. And I mentioned this yesterday. Listen to this part.
Old. The evidence will show that Charles began to scream at me when I refused to hand him his phone.
How? The only way that that evidence will come in, if anything, if nothing else indicates that Lori's taking the stand, guys, right there, that moment right there, because this is an interaction between her and Charles, and the only other people who were there are all dead. So if the evidence is going to show that, it's going to have to come from her.
The evidence will show that Charles screaming woke up Tylee and Alex.
Again, how? Because they are dead.
The evidence will show that
Yeah.
Tylee came out of her room with a bat to protect me, her mother, from her stepfather, Charles Vallow. The evidence will show that Tylee and Charles fought
Liz, did
over
you
the
see your
bat,
new command?
and that after a struggle over the bat, Tylee fell onto the ground. And Charles lifted up the bat to hit Tylee with the bat. The evidence will show that Alex then intervened to protect Tylee from being hit with the bat. He did not have a gun. He was not wearing a shirt. He was pulling up his jeans because he just woke up and came into the room where he heard the screaming. The evidence will show that Alex and Charles got into a physical struggle for the bat and fell onto the ground. The evidence will show that Tylee, who was on the ground, was lifted up by me and sent outside to get away from the struggle and to protect JJ, who was still in the running car in the rental car in the driveway. The evidence will show that after the struggle on the ground between Charles and Alex, that Charles prevailed with the bat and began to come towards me with the bat as I ran away from him into the kitchen. The evidence will show that at some point while I was running away from Charles, who was chasing me with the bat, that Alex apparently retrieved his gun. The evidence will show that I ran outside to the children and that Alex shot Charles in self-defense. The evidence will show that Tylee and I had both run outside without shoes.
Question for you guys. Her tears here. What do you think she is hoping the jury will interpret them as? What do you guys, let me repeat that. It's a specific question. What do you think she's hoping the jury will interpret them as, her emotion here?
The evidence will show that JJ was still in the front seat of the rental car with the engine running and struggling to get out of the car. Tylee was trying to keep him in. The evidence will show that Tylee and I got into the rental car with JJ and drove away. The evidence will show you that I drove the children away from the residence towards JJ's school. Can I grab a tissue?
Yes.
Why do I think the tears are fake? Can I grab a tissue? I mean, I'm not seeing any tears. And I think that this question right here, can I grab a tissue, is, again, her trying to, we see this all the time in these cases, right? When somebody's, whether it's in an interrogation or testifying or whatever, it's like they ask the question to try to support the fact that they are trying to show that they're crying. Yeah. I mean,
The evidence will show that I drove the children through the Burger King drive-thru that Charles had promised JJ. The evidence will show that we continued to drive towards JJ's school.
so here's what I will say, Twiz, though, even if that's okay. So I just want to say, at this point, our kids are alive and the jury does not know yet what happened to her kids. And I don't know that they will know because that's not a part of this. At this point, the kids were alive, right? The kids died after this, and that was all wrapped up, and that was in the Idaho cases, right? So it's unclear yet if the jury will learn. And honestly, I don't think the state can bring it in. It would have to be Lori opening the door. Like, that's a huge point. Like, because what's going to happen here, right, is the jury's probably going to be like, well, how come the kids aren't testifying, right? Because again, like I keep saying, every time she's like, the evidence will show, and she's referencing things that happened that were only there that the people who were there would have seen, which is her, Charles, Alex, and the kids, right? And I believe the jury's going to learn that Alex, and that might have even come in already in opening statements, I forget, that Alex did die. But as far as the kids go, that would be like that could be considered like a 404B issue, right? Prior bad acts or future bad acts. So I think the only way that will come in is if Lori opens the door. So, but the jury's going to be, if that doesn't happen, the jury's going to be left wondering, well, why aren't we hearing from the kids? Because they are witnesses, right? Like, they're witnesses. And why wouldn't they come in and say what happened? So it'll be interesting to see. So, but at this juncture, it would have to be that Lori's hoping to try to act like she's sad that her husband is dead, but not the kids. Because again, the kids aren't dead yet anyway at this juncture, and the jury doesn't know about the kids.
And that the gate was not yet open at JJ's school. So we drove a block west of the school to a Walgreens.
And that's kind of what Happy Annie is saying. That's kind of what I thought. Happy Annie says she's hoping that the jury will looks at her as a protective mother who did what she could in a tragedy. I think that's also what I think that was my thought as to what she's hoping for as well.
Ran in to purchase flip-flops for Tylee and myself so that we could walk JJ into school on the hot pavement. The evidence will show that Tylee and I returned directly to our residence where we met with police in our driveway. The evidence will show that we were spoken to by the Chandler police officers. And the evidence will show that Tylee and I were told by the Chandler police detectives that Charles had passed away.
I'm just going to, this is a good point here by official. I just wanted to address something. So he says that that's also crazy that they can exclude evidence that can prove guilt and they go scot-free. Remember, that's not, okay, while sometimes there could be evidence of guilt that can't come in for various reasons. For example, Rule 401 relevance. I guess if it does prove guilt, then that would pass the relevancy test. Then you've got Rule 403, which is the balancing test, probative versus prejudicial, right? Then you've got 404, 404A being character evidence, 404B being prior bad acts. And then after that, you go into hearsay, Rule 801. And there's other things as well, but those are really common reasons why there could be some evidence of guilt that might not be able to come in. However, here in this case, to make a distinction, this is different because she's here being charged with Charles's death, right? She's being charged with Charles's death. The death of the kids and of Tammy Daybell was already litigated in Idaho, right? So the fact that the kids and Tammy died, this is the whole point. This is why 404B exists, right? The prior bad acts. Again, in this case, really future bad acts. That's why. And it was the same thing, right? For example, in the Idaho trial, only limited testimony could come in about Charles because that's not being tried there, right? It was only for context to show the conspiracy, right? But they couldn't get into a lot of the, so we're actually going to learn a lot more here in this trial as far as it goes with Charles, but same thing. So you have to keep them separate. So they can't use the death of the kids and of Tammy, and again, that was tried in Idaho. They can't use that here. She's not being charged with that here. This is just as it pertains to Charles. Now, as for the conspiracy, this is going to probably a lot of it come in through the text messages and the communications they have, the phone calls, just like it did in Idaho. And that will be borne out through the evidence as we go along.
The evidence will show that we were put into a police van and driven to the Chandler Police Department. The evidence will show that Alex was taken by police in a police car to the Chandler Police Department, and that we were all three separated into interrogation rooms and we were each interviewed. The evidence will show that next, Tylee and I were brought back together into a room at the Chandler Police Department and were introduced to a victim's advocate who was very kind to us. The evidence will show that after speaking to the victim's advocate, that Tylee, Alex, and myself were put back into the police van and driven back to our residence. We were directed by the Chandler detectives to take the rental car and return later to the residence after we picked up JJ from school. The evidence will show that we did as instructed by the Chandler detectives. The evidence will show that we drove to Alex's residence where we attended to the wound on the back of his head. The evidence will show that Alex was then contacted by the Chandler detectives to return to the residence so that Alex could walk them through the events that occurred with the detectives at the residence. The evidence will show that Alex, Tylee, and I did return to the residence as instructed. And the evidence will show that Alex entered into the residence with Detective Moffett, but that Tylee and I were met by Detective England in the front yard. The evidence will show that at the time, Detective England asked Tylee and myself if we had Charles' cell phone. Tylee retrieved Charles' cell phone from the rental car and gave it to Detective England at 3:11 p.m. on July 11th, 2019. And at that time, Charles' phone was placed in the custody of Chandler Police detectives. The evidence will show that Detective England asked us if we knew the passcode on Charles' phone, which Tylee proceeded to give to Detective England. The evidence will show that Tylee and I left the residence to pick up JJ from school, while Alex remained at the residence with the detectives. The evidence will show that by the time Tylee, JJ, and I returned to the residence, that all police, EMS, CSI, and detectives were gone from the residence and only Alex remained. The evidence will show that the next day, I contacted Chandler Police to inform them that Charles' belongings were still at the hotel. I asked the detective if I should go get them, and I was told that they would take care of it. The evidence will show that I asked the detectives, what should we do next? And they directed us that they would contact us in about 3 weeks after their supervisor passed off their reports and Alex could go to the police station and retrieve his gun. The evidence will show that the last thing I heard from Chandler Police Department until June of 2021, 2 years later, when I received a grand jury indictment from them for this alleged crime. The evidence will show that Chandler Police treated this incident as self-defense.
And object to
Yeah.
that.
There it is.
Objection sustained. The jury should disregard that last statement.
How they treat, notice
The evidence will show
Notice she said treated it as self-defense, not that it was eventually decided that it was self-defense, right? because she can't say that. I mean, while they did treat it as self-defense, it ended up being charged as a murder,
Show
right?
you that my brother, Alex Cox, passed away on December 12th, 2019, almost exactly 5 months to the
Fakes.
day after Charles, my husband, passed away. The evidence will show that Alex passed away from a blood clot in his lung.
Objection. Again.
I'll sustain the objection. It's not relevant for this matter.
The evidence will show you that I am the only person being charged with this crime.
I'm going to object to the relevance of that.
Sustain.
As the state has mentioned, they're alleging that insurance money was my motive. Social Security was my motive. Spouses having insurance policies is not a crime. Collecting Social Security is not a crime. Self-defense is not a crime. A family tragedy is not a crime. It's a tragedy. Thank you.
All right, the state can call its first witness.
Thank you. If I may go get him.
Yeah, I get what you mean, Frank. So official says, I'm all scared to ask questions. Don't ever be afraid to ask questions. I'm happy to answer questions. Totally happy to answer your questions. And I understand it being caught up in the drama, right? And that's the thing. The more trials you watch, right, the more that you end up, A, learning some of these things by osmosis, but B, wanting to know more, because sometimes things will happen really quickly. And like, for example, especially sometimes in trials where they don't give speaking objections, but they give the legal objection and they'll say Rule 702 or Rule 801 or whatever. And it's like, it's nice to like know exactly what they're talking about, right? And so usually I will, yeah, and Happy Annie, it says the same thing. Please don't ever be afraid here. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to skip the first witness because we covered the first witness yesterday. Although, wait, where did I just saw? Interesting. Hold on. We're going to watch this. So on the Law and Crime feed, it did not show this because we were watching Law and Crime feed yesterday. It did not show. Interesting. It did not show what they were looking at. We watched all of his testimony.
And sir, if you could just look at that and recognize that as you.
No objection.
Yeah, we did not get to see this yesterday on the other feed. Okay. Wow. Unless
So
they,
this is the house you're walking up to,
wow.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
As you're talking to dispatch?
Yes.
Yeah, on Law and Crime yesterday, they had the camera on the
This is the individual that is coming out that you asked dispatch to have come out?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that Officer Krautheim in the back?
right?
It is.
Thing. Okay, so I think what might have happened
Are
is
you in
Law and Crime might have just not put the camera up there because of the fact that eventually it does show him going in the house and it probably there's something graphic. But yeah, interesting.
announcing?
Got to see a little bit.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that standard?
Yes.
That where you checked to see if this male had a pulse?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, interesting. Okay, thanks, Happy Annie. Yeah, they didn't show any of this on the Law and Crime feed. But I appreciate that warning. I mean, right now, though, they're not showing the inside. So okay, I have to just say something. So remember, there's a 30-minute delay on these feeds. Part of me wonders if, after the fact, things have been approved to show other camera angles that maybe they didn't know could be okay at the time. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. So Happy Annie, are you saying with Court TV they're going to show it? Because right now we're not seeing it.
That the weapon that you told us that you found?
Yes, ma'am.
But Law and Crime didn't show anything of the TV with this witness.
Are you letting people know on your radio that you found a weapon?
I believe so, yes.
You told us that other officers were arriving?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what we see here happening?
Yes.
And is fire also starting to come in?
I believe they were right behind him, yes.
Okay, I'm going to go forward a little bit. Again, we listened to all this. I'm just going to see. What I'm looking for is
The
if we
victim.
can see any
Identification
footage.
for, were you able in his pocket? To
I remember all this. They didn't have a wallet. Okay.
When you were interacting with him there, what was his demeanor like?
He was extremely calm.
Was it with this witness though, or was it with a different witness? I'm just curious. Because it could be that it was on the East Idaho news feed. So I'm just curious if it was this witness or a different one. Oh, maybe it's here. Maybe it's here. Let's see. Oh, they're going away. There was
You
no
told us that you were looking for the wallet for this individual.
interesting.
Did it seem unusual to you that you couldn't find one?
I
Again,
wouldn't say it was unusual. I didn't know if he lived there or not. So I just kind of looked around to see if there was anything laying around.
I'm going to jump ahead a little bit again. Let me see if I can pull up. Interesting how with different feeds you see different things. That's good to know and keep in mind because
Is this you still trying to see if there's anything in the residence that might be related to that individual?
I think I was just giving Officer Cohen a recap of what I already went and looked through.
did I stop mid-sentence? Sorry, guys, I'm thinking. I don't know if I finished my sentence. That might not have been important. I'm looking for the East Idaho News. Feed.
I have shown defense counsel or defendant exhibits 3 and 4. I have paralegal bring those to up to the officer to review as well.
Okay, hang on. Okay, I'm pausing that real quick. Okay, I'm going to jump over to the East Idaho News. I found it exactly where this was to see if they show something different here. Hi, Kane. So they're panning away.
That's standard.
Eh. Interesting.
Identification for
I didn't check his pockets, but no. Yes.
This is outside again. There he is rubbing his head.
like
Okay, let's see. Now they're going panning away again. Interesting. Okay, yeah, I'm wondering if it was a different witness. It looks like they're using, this looks identical to the court TV one, the way that they're changing the camera. But yeah, it is noteworthy to me, though, that with Law and Crime, they didn't show it at all. So maybe they didn't know if they could and they didn't want to risk it. So maybe from now on, they will be consistent, like the different feeds. But okay, so now we're back here. Let's, so again, we covered the rest of this witness with Cross yesterday. So I'm going to go on to the next witness. So this dude, Mr. Green dude, we started with him yesterday and then I had to go teach. So we're going to pick up where we left off.
had contact with him.
No,
Any difficulty sitting or standing?
no,
Did you learn the name of this person?
I did.
What was his name?
Alex Cox.
Did you observe him sweating at all when he first came out?
No,
Any type of jitters?
no,
Any uneven or broken voice as he's talking to you?
no,
At some point, did you notice an injury to him?
I did.
And where was it?
On the back of his head, towards his right side.
And what did you see?
I articulated my written report as about an inch laceration, a small like knot, and it was bleeding a little bit.
Not. Wow. Wow.
If we can fix that.
Funky. His face is priceless. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. So I will say, because now we're at new testimony that I haven't had yet, we can now pick up where we left off with our objection counter. So we've got that going on.
Alex Cox patting or rubbing the back of his head with some sort of rag or paper towel.
Yes,
Without going into what was said, did you talk with him?
I did.
Did you offer him medical treatment?
I did.
Did he ask for medical treatment?
He did not.
Was there anything about his talking with you or actions that made you concerned
Correct.
that you
Currently.
thought you should override that?
Yes.
Let me make sure you understood. Was there anything about what you observed with Alex Cox talking,
This
or
time,
his ability to move, that made you think you should override his decision to not get treatment, and you thought, oh, he better get treatment, he's so bad off?
Oh, zero, none.
At some point while you were talking with Alex Cox, did you see a female and a teenager show up at the scene?
I did.
And did you eventually go speak with those two?
I did.
Where did you speak with them?
Just on the other side of the street, they had parked right across from the house.
Did you speak with the adult female?
I did.
Did you ask for a driver's license to identify her?
I did.
And who was that person?
Lori Vallow.
right?
Do you see Lori Vallow in the courtroom today?
I have
I
an
do.
idea
Can
though.
you point her out and tell us what she is wearing for the record?
Now she's at the defense table wearing a white shirt underneath looks like a black jacket.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
Shall.
When you went to speak with Lori Vallow, did you know that the deceased person in the house was her husband?
I did.
When you went to speak with Lori Vallow, did you ask her whether or not the individual inside her husband lived there?
I did not ask her that.
Can you describe for us Lori Vallow's demeanor as you were interacting with her?
Calm, nonchalant, just kind of a matter of fact, just talking to me as I'm talking to you now.
When you went to speak with Lori Vallow, can you tell us approximately how many police cars were parked around there?
Well, I don't know either myself. I know there was at least mine and Officer Wiz's. There's a fire truck there. I think there was an ambulance there, and I think there may have been another police car. I can't remember, but there was a lot of emergency vehicles just near the home itself.
And was her brother Alex Cox sitting sort of in view of her?
Literally across the street, like the desk of the prosecutor would be her car. This is the street, and I had Alex seated right on the sidewalk.
When she first arrived, did she actually walk up to where you were with Alex Cox? How her brother was doing?
Nope,
Did she ever ask you if her brother needed medical attention from being hit by a bat?
nope,
Did she ever ask you why there were so many police cars around the neighborhood?
nope,
Did she ask you why there was a fire truck parked in front of her house?
nope.
So other than gathering basic information, did you really talk to her about anything else?
No,
And were you wearing that body worn camera footage or camera when you had contact with her?
I did.
After you talked with Lori Vallow, did you go back and stand near Alex Cox again?
Yes.
If I can have my paralegal.
I think they're
go
gonna do
up and
body
show
cam.
him
By the way,
number one.
Okay, they're gonna get this into
Do you
edits. We're gonna
recognize,
get into more body.
is it missing the audio other than during your?
I will just, as far as the tie is concerned, in the Casey Anthony case or trial, there was the tie that the prosecutor, Mr. Ashton, wears. He's worn it a couple times. It's the ugliest. Well, before this tie, I would have said it was probably the ugliest tie ever. But I was able to find that tie, and I'm employing the same methods to see if I can find this tie.
Your interaction with Lori Vallow?
Correct. Yes,
And did you initially identify that previously as your body cam?
I did.
State will move to admit exhibit number one.
Any objection to exhibit number one? Any
No
objection
objection.
to
No objection.
exhibit one's admitted?
And if we could publish it.
Go ahead.
So is this you responding to the scene?
Correct.
And was your camera flipped upside down initially?
And this, well, the camera wasn't. The orientation of the software was.
So that's why we see the axon and stuff in the bottom corner upside down.
That is correct.
God, don't tell me it's inverted like the law.
So this was a gated community?
It was.
As you're driving, did you go by the fire truck here?
I did.
And is it standard for fire to stage a little ways away from the scene when it's a shooting?
Yes.
Why is that?
So they can respond quickly.
Do they want you to clear the residence first before they show up?
Yeah, it needs to be safe for the firemen. We got to make sure there's no one else in the house that was armed or in the area.
And as you're arriving, is the person, the shooter, still inside the house?
I can't recollect. I think he was at the door right now or just coming out to the door.
Why did you pull your weapon?
I was just told somebody killed somebody. So yeah, for my safety, I want to make sure I rendered him safe before I put my gun away. It was a threat to me.
So when he came out, he had both his hands up in the air.
Mhm.
So at that point, nothing touching his head yet to know.
Correct.
Now, did you stay out with him while Officer Worsbicky went inside?
I did.
While you're talking with him during this whole time, at this point, he still hasn't brought anything out to try to place on his injury.
Correct.
When he came out, did he already have those sunglasses on the top of his head?
He did.
Why did you have him move over here?
I actually physically couldn't hear him. Fire trucks are incredibly loud, so I had to move away.
True.
So fire had already pulled up to now go inside the residence.
Correct.
So y'all, I'm going to show you what I'm finding. I'm not finding the exact tie. Interesting. Let me show you what I'm looking at here. So what I did was I took a screenshot of the tie. All right. And it's right here. And I did a reverse image search. And this is what I'm seeing. Her shower curtain or whatever. None of it is exactly the tie though, which is really interesting. What a bummer. I mean, it's similar, but it's not the same though. It's not the same. There's another shower curtain. Interesting. Was it custom made or was it just custom fitted? Sorry. PlayStation 2 up in the right. Sorry, just segue into rollout. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Well, back to the testimony here or the body cam.
And can you kind of see them in the corner going in?
Yes.
Did you learn whose truck that was in the driveway?
I don't recollect right now whose truck it is. I think it's his, but I'm not sure.
Is it a truck? Sorry, Murdoch. Squint witness. This dude stays outside, it looks like.
And who's that other officer there?
That's Officer Wizbeski. Sorry. I've been calling him Wiz since I've known him.
Shorter.
Easier to pronounce for people, that's why.
Were you initially trying to control the scene yourself, sort of helping to tell people where to go and what to do?
Oh, absolutely. My head's on kind of a swivel. I'm always kind of looking around like people just walk up to you and ask you what's going on. And you got to make sure no one's going to walk up to the house. So you just try to keep it as pristine as you can.
So we see him putting his head now, or his hand on the back of his head, correct?
Yes.
And you indicated there's a fire truck there. You asked him if he wanted any medical attention,
I did.
and he declined it.
He refused. Her daughter.
So when you said across the street,
Okay, sorry, now this is the
who are
good
those?
That's Lori
Oh,
Vallow.
let me back it up right when I was about to go ahead. Okay, now we're going to watch this part at normal speed. Okay.
Who are those?
Esmeralda?
That's Lori Vallow and her daughter.
So when you said across the street, we just saw a red SUV. Is that what you're talking about?
Correct.
Yeah, the brother is sitting there on the curb with the sunglasses on his head.
So at this point, did you know the name of the individual inside the residence?
Yes.
And who was that?
Charles Vallow.
And did you at this point understand who that woman was that walked up?
Yes.
It
Who
was.
did you believe she was?
His wife.
Lori. Hey, Sniper. Cutie pie. Where'd Twiz go? Freaking Twiz.
Normally when
On somewhere.
someone is shot and killed,
I mean, I just
is there a team of
I was
detectives?
gonna say, so it's just so funny. It's like you have to compare the two. Like Alex with his little head quote unquote injury, and then you have sorry, let me be more specific. Alex Cox with a quote unquote head injury, and then Alex Murdoch with his quote unquote head injury. And they seem to be about the same in severity. Of course, it's even funnier with Alex Murdoch because that was where he was supposed to have been shot.
Detectives and crime scene specialists who will come out to handle the case?
Don't go to work, stay with us.
Yes.
And are you, as patrol officers, sort of stuck with taking care of it until they arrive?
Yeah, we deal with the burning, bleeding, and blowing up stuff. Anything that takes time and.
Oh, that's awesome. Freaking love that answer. Holy shit.
Stuck with taking care of it until they arrive?
Yeah, we deal with the burning, bleeding, and blowing up stuff. Anything that takes time.
Burning, bleeding, and blowing up stuff. Fuck yeah. That I honestly, I've watched a fuck ton of trials. We've heard a lot of testimony from law enforcement officers in these trials. Everybody gets asked this question. This is my favorite answer of all time. I'm gonna have to clip this and make it a thing. This is the best answer I've ever heard to that question.
And a lot more in-depth stuff. That's what the detectives do.
And then what do we see here that just came up?
Looks like an ambulance.
But who, if anyone, was driving the ambulance? That's the real question.
You told us that you understood when you were arriving that this shooting had just happened.
Hi, Twiz.
Do you recall at this point when the 911 call came in?
No, I don't remember specifics on the time. I think at 8:39 I was dispatched to it. I would imagine the call for service came in a minute or two before that.
And approximately, do you recall how long it took you to get to the scene?
Probably 4 or 5 minutes.
We see more people walking up. Are you trying to stop the contamination of the scene by having more people walk in there?
Yes, I told the fireman kind of what was maybe in the house, and Officer Wiz was already in the house. And so we were just trying to control how many firemen went into the house.
So when you're the first on scene, are you trying to have the least number of people go in there as possible?
Yes,
Are you trying to not touch anything that's not necessary to be touched?
correct. Yes,
Obviously, if fire is going to work on a person, they're going to have to contaminate it somewhat.
yes.
Is that when we sort of see fire now leaving?
I couldn't, just from recollection, I couldn't answer that.
By the way, guys, I just checked. I didn't see any updates for Kara Reed yet as of this moment. Looks like they still have 10 jurors.
We see
In an outer perimeter.
Okay. So yeah, to Happy Amy's point about sound. So you can tell that sound was turned off there, like redacted, I should say. So either what was said there was said there was not admissible, right? Either it wasn't relevant, either it was personal information, maybe it's hearsay, but the sound was redacted there because you can tell that they were talking because he turned over and was pointed over towards Lori and they were saying something. Alex.
Or a patrol officer to have to stay with the individual who is the shooter, ensure that no one else is contacting them.
Yes,
So you don't want any of the neighbors walking up to them.
correct. At this moment, I'm still basically fact finding. I'm just trying to figure out what happened, when it happened, who was involved kind of thing. And yeah, I try to keep them separate.
Sergeants and others start arriving on scene.
Yes, that's my Sergeant Nacella.
When you have a scene like this where detectives are going to be called out, do all the different patrol officers provide their information that could be relevant to one person who can then brief the detectives?
Yes, I briefed my supervisor to let him know from my point of view what I know and what I was told. And then at some point, I think he would disseminate that to the detectives.
So is this you kind of telling him at this point what you've learned?
Yes,
And can we also see what the body camera looks like on the shoulder there?
yes, he has the same type.
What made you decide that you needed to go over and talk to Lori Vallow?
Again, it's fact finding, really. It's who are you? And when I say who, I always like to identify them by their Arizona driver's license, because although my name is Robert, I go by Rob. So I don't want to assume her name is just Lori. It could be something specifically or longer. So I usually ask people for identification.
And that's
Did
you
you
can
ask
put that
her
in.
about her nicknames, such as what was it, Lily and Elena?
Into your report appropriately.
Correct.
So we saw the ambulance leave. That means they didn't transport him.
Correct.
Did you learn that you actually couldn't cordon off this area the way you had initially thought because there was only one way out?
That is correct. We initially, as you can see, cordoned off part of the road, so anybody couldn't just drive up to us. We later learned that's the only way that part of the neighborhood could actually exit the neighborhood. So we had to change the tape a little bit.
And then we see fire leave here as well. So now it's just police basically at the scene.
Police in the
Okay, I think he's gonna go talk to them. Slow it down. There's Lori and Tylee.
I think a crime scene technician.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
And are you still the only person responsible for making sure that no one is talking with Alex Cox?
I am.
Okay.
Is this where you go over to speak with Ms. Vallow?
Okay, here we go. Sweet.
We could turn up the volume.
Pump it up.
Do you have a driver's license? Thank you.
Lori thinks she's hot shit, man. Tell you what.
L-O-R-I. What does your middle initial stand for?
Noreen.
Noreen. N-O.
R-E-N.
V-A-L. What's a phone number for you, Lori?
808-755.
755?
545.
You live here, though, not in Santan. This is your home.
Right,
Gotcha.
right.
Okay.
We just moved in here.
Gotcha. How long have you guys lived here?
I'm sorry,
How long have you lived here?
like 3 weeks.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Okay.
That's why the neighbors took us.
Gotcha.
Being she kills Tylee.
Hi, neighbor.
That's
sorry.
weird.
Are you working at all?
Oh, here's the part with the neighbors. This is so cringy.
Sorry,
How long have you lived here?
like 3 weeks.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Okay.
That's why the neighbors took us.
Gotcha.
Like, hi, neighbor. Sorry.
Are you working at all?
No.
Okay. And you're still about 5'6", 120?
Did you also get biographical information from teenager?
I did.
Was that Tylee Ryan?
It was.
Let me stop it now. After you had talked with Alex Cox and Lori Vallow, did you go brief some of the detectives about what you had learned?
I did.
Did you tell the detectives that Lori Vallow did not know that her husband Charles was dead?
I told them that I did not advise her of such.
Did you believe that she did not know that her husband was dead?
I did.
Ah,
Why did you
oh
believe
my
that?
God.
Well, I was under the understanding that this just happened. She just arrived back on scene, and I did not advise her of what happened in the house.
When you spoke with Alex Cox, did he
Listen.
provide additional information that made you believe that she was not present when the shooting happened?
Yes.
TSN.
After you advised the detectives of this, did you then return and remain with Alex Cox for a significant additional period of time?
Yes,
Were you eventually asked to transport him to the police station?
I was.
Can you describe his demeanor during the transport?
Calm. Didn't ask. We just talked about things not related to this at all. Just a conversation between like me and you, just normal, average tone. Calm.
And did you stay with him at the police station until a detective arrived?
Yes,
Did that end your involvement in this case?
it did.
And no further questions.
No
All
further
right.
question.
Cross-examination.
Cross-examination. Can we do a swoop for cross? Because I know this cross. I caught a tiny bit of this cross yesterday. I was in between lessons. And then this is, I saw a snippet of it, and that's as much as I've seen after, as far as this witness, and then anything after. So we're going to do a swoop for cross because I know this cross is a disaster. Let's do this.
I gotta show you that waterfall though. Oh, there's a little waterfall coming out of the spa.
Wait. Are you? He's calling that a waterfall, guys. What do you think that says about his, you know what size?
And the grounds have been a fixture in their online videos.
I gotta show you that waterfall though. Oh, there's a little waterfall coming out of the spa.
I'm good. I'm dead. Goodbye. Oh my God, I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead, you guys. I'm dead. And this wins. That is the waterfall. What? I don't.
For years, this house and the grounds have been a fixture in their online videos.
I gotta show you that waterfall though. Oh, there's a little waterfall coming out of the spa.
That speaks volumes though, doesn't it, about him? Holy shit. He calls that a waterfall? Oh dear.
This is my pool, my slide,
Oh my God.
you know, my little hot tub, and
Is he going to say the waterfall? Is it
got a
different?
little waterfall. We haven't really.
Oh my God. Hold on. I was saying that as a joke because this is a different video and different outfit and all that. No way.
But it's getting there,
I'm dying.
and take some time to get a house the way you like it. This is my pool, my slide, you know, my little hot tub, and we got a little waterfall. We haven't really furnished it yet, but we're gonna make it real nice. This is my house.
Oh my God.
This is the back of it.
freaking waterfall. You've got to be
It's a pretty sweet spot.
It's like I always say, right? One man's drainage hole is another person's waterfall. That is really interesting. Official says, I don't even know what Google Gemini is. This is fascinating because this is a reference literally only to us. And some of it is from members only lives, but a lot of it is not. But literally that it was born of that moment when we were watching that for the first time. And I died because I was like, oh my God. And like, now it's just a thing. So that's really funny that Google Gemini, I'm surprised there's enough there for Google Gemini to have any idea. So let me read what this says. I asked Google Gemini to explain the waterfall reference. So I sent screenshots of this part and the whole chat. Okay. So that makes sense then. Okay. And then Google was like, it is most likely a reference to him having a tiny, sad excuse of a fountain, and it's laughable. Accurate. Wow, that is really crazy. That is so funny. Yeah, I remember when Twiz didn't know what it was, and he was said in the chat, like to me and Heather, and he was like, wait, where did the waterfall thing come from? And then he was like, I know it's a reference to, I know it's a culty thing, but like, and I was just dying laughing because I was like, it's not a culty thing yet. Like, it's not like it's specific literally just to this one thing, but like it could totally become a culty thing. Like maybe it'll spread, maybe it'll catch on. But anyway, now the song, that's Karen Reed, unless you're talking about Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls. But, you know, so as far as Karen Reed, the waterfall ba, you know, there was Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls like with that. But now with the Twin Flames thing, it's like Don't Go Chasing Tiny Waterfalls. So there's an updated version. That's fucking funny. That's fucking funny. That is really funny. But basically, the clip I just played, right? I'll play the beginning of it again so I can explain what this is. Because, hold on, I'll just play the beginning.
I gotta show you that waterfall though. Oh, there's a little waterfall coming out of the spa.
This part that you just saw, this was the first time we ever watched this footage. This is from like, I don't know, maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. And this was the moment, this was the first time I saw this, right? So you're hearing like my first reaction to the tiny waterfall. Like, that's what this is.
I gotta show you that waterfall though. Oh, there's a little waterfall coming out of the spa.
Wait. Are you? He's calling that a waterfall, guys. What do you think that says about his, you know what size?
And the grounds have been a fixture in their online videos.
I gotta show you that waterfall though. Oh, there's a little waterfall coming out of the spa.
I'm good. I'm dead. Goodbye. Oh my God, I'm dead. I'm dead, you guys. I'm dead. And this wins. That is the waterfall. What? I don't.
For years, this house and the grounds have been a fixture in their online videos.
I gotta show you that waterfall though. Oh, there's a little waterfall coming out of the spa.
That speaks volumes though, doesn't it, about him?
That was literally the moment that the whole thing was born right there. That's why I made the clip so that everyone can be up to speed. That moment right there, that's taken directly from the live stream where we saw this for the first time, verbatim. That is literally where the whole thing came from. And then from there, it became the command. And then we watched it a bunch of more times. And then the second part of that clip is from like a week later or something where we were watching the house tour. And I made the joke and I was like, don't tell me he's going to say something about waterfall. And then he fucking did. And I was like, I can't even believe he's doing that. Like, so anyway, but that's why I made the clip, because that's literally where the whole thing came from. And then it's just blown up from there. So yeah. In fact, I think that there's been times where other people are even making references to it in other people's chats. Kane, if you're still listening, are people, because I feel like I saw that one time when I was there, when I popped in, maybe yesterday, when I popped in for a second, and there were jokes about twin flames and the waterfall. And it's just so funny because people, just so good. So good. The spa. That's really funny. Dude. DSN said this guy's idea of a threesome is when he switches hands. DSN. Oh my God. I'm saving this. That is amazing. Y'all are the best, funniest and best people ever is the Squirrel Crew. Oh my God. Okay. Let's keep going with this testimony. Right. And so there was a question. The question was, because I thought I saw when I popped in yesterday for your live stream, Kane, for just a second, I thought I saw, were people making references though, about twin flames and the tiny waterfall? Like I'm just wondering, because I feel like I wouldn't surprise me, like if that's happening elsewhere where other people don't know what it is, which is really fucking funny. Great question from P Fox. I wonder how many small children can fit in this spa compared to the tub. Great question. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if in one of his YouTube videos, he answers that question. There's just so many. We'd have to go through all of them with time. We'll get there with time. And so I bet I wouldn't be surprised. Would not be surprised. So, okay. So that was our swoop for Cross. So now we're going to hear Lori on Cross. With twin flames?
Can you pronounce your last name for me? I don't want to get it wrong.
Krautheim.
Krautheim.
Yes.
Okay. Officer Krautheim.
At the time, yes.
At the time. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That is so funny. That's so funny, right? We're like, y'all. By the way, official. So I popped into STS as well. So again, I was in between lessons. So I popped into my friends who were live. So I popped into Kane, popped into STS, waiting for a student. And I was so happy and so pleasantly surprised to see official in the STS chat. Like, that was so amazing. I love that so much. STS is awesome. Who's here to help? Oh, that's so funny. Everybody kept going on with the waterfall reference drinking stream. That is so funny. That is so funny. That is so funny. See, because that's what I'm thinking is like, I'm sure that that's happened and I don't even know about it. Right. So that is so funny. Yeah. Huge shout out to STS. Love everybody, all the STSers. I'm sure actually some of them I think are even here. So
About Alex being calm when he
yes,
exited
that
the house.
actually, and
Is
Frank.
that correct?
Yes.
And then he's also, you were advised that he had told the 911 operator that he composed himself and then called 911. Is that correct?
I don't remember to compose himself, but I think he did.
But you stated in your report that Alex was very calm throughout the entire time talking with him, correct?
Yes.
And the scene
Oh,
itself,
by the way, while I'm thinking about it, for those of you guys, so if you all remember when there was talk about me coming on as a best guest, this happened. This was not my idea or anything, right? Like that, they wanted me to come on to be a best guest for like covering Idaho v. Koberger, and that was like a while ago that there was talk of that, and then I didn't hear anything from Joel. Anyway, I did have follow up from the person who sets people up for the show, and anyway, she reached out to me and said that because what I said was I was like, I totally understand, like totally fine. I do not consider myself qualified to be a best guest. I was like, this is just too much for me. Like I can't even. And so I was like, yeah, like that's normal. It's totally whatever. But she was like, no, that's not it at all. She said that they still want to have me on, but Joel is just so ADD that he hasn't gotten around to calling, but that she sent him a reminder. So that's really all it is waiting for Joel to call me. And then, but they're still planning on it and expecting it. So we'll see. But anyway, just wanted to follow up with that because I know some of you guys were asking when that was going to happen. And so I don't know when, but probably someday if Joel can keep himself focused, I guess, essentially.
was it chaotic?
No.
Were people running around screaming?
No.
Were people running in and out of the front door?
No.
So were the officers calm?
It was just me and another officer.
Were you calm?
Yes,
Was the other officer calm?
he was.
Were the detectives calm?
They were.
Was the fire department calm?
I didn't interact with him very much. I couldn't answer that.
Your friend the Wiz was calm?
Yes, the other officer, yes.
The Wiz, your friend, the Wiz. Oh, that's fun.
So when I arrived at the scene, things were pretty calm.
Is that a question?
Yes.
Oh, yes, you were calm.
No, I'm saying when I arrived at the scene itself was calm environment.
It was.
Okay. So if I would have been hysterical, that would have been more out of character than if I was calm when everybody else was being calm. Isn't that correct?
Speculation.
Sustained.
Ooh, objection counter. Ooh, yay.
So you said that Alex was calm and was holding a towel in his right hand and holding it up to the back of his head. Is that correct?
He did.
And you said, oh, sorry, it's in my other note.
Oh dear. Get it together.
Just now that his head had a 1-inch laceration. Is that correct?
Yes,
That's like a cut on his head. 1
It
inch?
is.
Okay. And you said a small knot.
I did.
Is that correct? Okay. And that it was bleeding a little. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. And so a small knot is what you declared it, but would you not call it a goose egg?
tomato.
Okay. Did Alex ask for medical treatment?
He did not.
How many times did you ask him if he needed medical treatment?
I think 3 times.
Okay. And there was EMS right there next to you?
Yes,
So an EMS person could have just come over and checked the back of his head pretty easily, yeah?
yes,
Yes. But no one asked anybody to do that. Correct? Okay. And he didn't seem disoriented to you at all?
No,
So you didn't think he needed any kind of medical attention at the time?
no,
And he didn't ask for any at the time?
correct. He did not.
And you didn't supply any at the time?
Correct.
Okay.
Got it.
But EMT was right there next to you?
Yes,
Okay. That's another thing that you said, calm and nonchalant. Is that correct? You
Yes.
stated that Alex was nonchalant. What is your definition of
Oh
nonchalant?
yeah, this is funny.
kind of like how I am now. I don't have a lot of emotion. I'm not afraid. Just nonchalant.
Is that your typical demeanor?
I guess it depends on the situation and the circumstance.
I mean, this can be a stressful situation, right? So it's your demeanor right now.
It is.
Testifying in court can be a stressful situation.
I guess it can be.
So if that was Alex's normal demeanor, then it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for him to be nonchalant.
Objection, speculation.
I'll allow it. I'll allow the answer. He doesn't know the demeanor, but you can answer.
Can you ask the question again?
Yeah, so if Alex's normal demeanor was like your normal demeanor, and even in a stressful situation, if he was nonchalant, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for him to be nonchalant again, because that's his normal demeanor, correct?
The compound question.
I'll sustain that
Yeah,
objection.
compound. Yes, objections. Let's get it.
You,
Get it.
you mentioned that I had parked across the street. Is that correct?
Yes.
Why did I have to park across the street?
Actually,
I don't know.
So we saw on the body cam, right, that there was a huge fire truck, correct?
Yes.
There was police cars, correct?
Yes.
There was a CSI van, correct?
She was parked somewhere. I don't know where.
Next to the house, kind of, I guess, south of the house. So there was nowhere to park except for across the street. Is that correct?
No,
That's not correct?
that is not correct.
Where else could I have parked?
Well, the street's long. You could have parked anywhere along the street. You could have parked on the other street. That's where I parked. Or you could park on the other side of the street, south of the home, where there was plenty of parking. So there was other options to park.
But I parked as close as I could to the scene so that I could come talk to you. Is that correct?
Speculation, testifying.
And why does it fucking matter? Relevancy? Yeah, okay, hold on. This is multiple objections. Let's count these so we can add it to the ticker. And I think there's actually additional ones. Let's just break this down. Let me put this on normal speed. We're gonna break this down. This is hilarious to me though. Okay. Let's see.
Or you could park on the other side of the street, south of the home, where there was plenty of parking. So there was other options to park.
But I parked as close as I could to the scene so
All right.
that
The first objection here would be counsel's testifying. Okay.
I could come talk to you.
Objection.
Is that correct?
Speculation, testifying.
Sustain.
And I would say also relevancy. But she made 2 objections. She probably could have gone for 3 at least. So but we're gonna add 2 to the ticker there. Wow. Wow. Okay.
So we can agree that there were lots of police vehicles blocking the house. Is that correct?
Emergency vehicles.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, emergency, police, fire, CSI, all were there, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But even though all of those things were there, the scene was not chaotic. Is that correct?
Correct.
It was a very calm scene that day.
Objection asked and answered.
Yeah.
Sustain.
It is asked and answered. It is.
Do you know how hot it was that day?
No, but it was hot.
It was hot.
She shouldn't be commenting like that either, but whatever. They're going to give her a little leeway, some leeway for being pro se.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. What was the extent?
Wait. Oh, dear mother of God. Lori? Oh, my God.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. What was the extent of your duties that day? I know that you had arrived on the scene. You said dispatched was about 8:39 a.m. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then it took you about 4 to 5 minutes to arrive.
Yes.
And then you were the first on the scene.
No.
No. Who was the first on the scene? Do you know?
Wiz was.
Oh, that's correct. And then
Oh, my God.
who arrived? How long after he arrived did you arrive? Do you know?
Oh, I was like seconds,
Okay.
maybe 10, 15 seconds.
And then you were right there when Alex came out of the house,
I was.
and you were with him basically that whole time till he
Yes.
got into the police car?
Yes,
And then did you drive him to the station?
I did.
So you were in the car with him the whole time?
Yes.
So you really never didn't have eyes on Alex from the time he came out of the house till the time he got to the police station?
Correct.
Okay. And did you have a conversation on the way to the police station?
I did.
You did. And that's the second body cam we didn't watch. Is that correct? Has your name on it?
Yeah, there's another body worn camera we haven't seen.
Right. From the police car, I'm saying.
Yes, me driving.
You driving, but it comes from the car, not from the shoulder body cam. Is that correct?
No, it comes from my
Oh, it was
body-worn
still
camera.
on your shoulder.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God, this is crazy. I just have to say real quick. So DSN. So first of all, DSN, if you didn't know this, and for anyone who doesn't know, so our the revised proposed juror questionnaire for Karen Reed, by the way, might still be trending on Reddit. And oh my God, there's law enforcement officers in my neighbor's backyard. What? Why is there police? There's police vehicles outside my house. Hold on, guys. Hold on. I need to just reiterate, I'm not concerned. I just want to know what the scuttlebutt is. And I want to, like, my normal thing, I would go out there and be nosy. What are they doing? Because my backyard is my neighbor. Like, our backyards don't have a separation. Like, some of you guys have seen pictures of my backyard because of like the Fox videos and stuff. But like, so this is, I mean, I'm just standing here live streaming. I'm just seeing this out my window. Wow. What are they doing? Okay, well, that's happening. What was I going to say? Okay, yes. So DSN, so it was trending on Reddit, might still be, but people are loving that. And so huge shout out to DSN. The majority of those questions came from DSN. That's the first thing. Second thing, there's a story behind the name. And it came from his son during COVID who had like a show and tell kindergarten. He was in kindergarten. I always say, correct me if I'm wrong, kindergarten or first grade. Every time I seem to get it right, but I still ask the question every time. So I think it's kindergarten. And that they did like a show and tell. And the action figure in the picture there is a Fisher Price doll, vintage. And that was what he brought to show and tell. And when the teacher was like, they're like, what's his name? And DSN's, as we call him short, his son responded with Daddy Short Nuts out of the blue. And so that's the name and that's the action figure. So yes. Right. What's everyone's demeanor in the back of the yard? Right. Yeah, I didn't see. Where did he go? What is going on? It looks like maybe, I don't know this. I don't know if my neighbor called them in for something. I mean, there's police, there's things happening. Incredible. And he should go out there and live stream. No, I'm just kidding. Kindergarten over Zoom coded. Okay, so I got the year right, or the age right. Good. Fisher Price action. Thank you. So yes, so that's the story with that. Okay, we'll see what happens with all this scuttlebutt though.
And in that, did you have a conversation with Alex on the way to the police station?
Yes.
Objection asked and answered.
And did he express?
Hold on. When
Sorry.
there's an objection.
I'm sorry.
Wait for the ruling. I'll sustain the objection, but the answer will stand nonetheless. Go ahead. Next question.
Sorry.
Did he express to you that he kind of fell out of it because he hit?
Sustain.
Wow. Get it. Stay objecting to her. Treating her. I will just say, this is rare. We've seen other pro se defendants. Usually there's not that many objections. And when there's an objection that is lodged, it's for something that is like egregious. They're treating her appropriately. And here's what I mean by that. Because while she is pro se, she's not like the other pro se defendants. And she doesn't know what she's doing. But she at least is doing better than others. And I appreciate that they're lodging these objections. And I think it's freaking hilarious. And I love watching the ticker go up. Let's get to 1 million.
When did you make your report about the incident on July 11th, 2019?
Like my point that I was going to say is like, this is really unusual that you see this many objections in a pro, like so far, like we're just day one. And I agree. No mercy from the state. And I freaking love it.
I think what was the end of my workday that day, but I stopped and started it numerous times throughout the day.
So did you finish it that day or it still took a few days?
No, I finished at the end of my shift.
By the end of your shift, which was what time that day?
4 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you make any revisions to that later on?
Okay,
No.
guys, update. Law enforcement officer. Oh my God, what is happening? Oh my God, there's another vehicle, another cop car. Hold on. He's pulling up. He's coming to talk to somebody. I got you guys. You guys, hold on. I got to see what's going on. Hold on. Be right back. Well, here, I'll play this. Just let me know if I miss any objections.
So this is the only report that you made in regards to the day of July 11th, 2019?
It is.
You stated that there was red liquid on the rag towel that appeared to be blood. Did you think it was something other than blood?
Well, I had no way to test it, so I have to articulate it that way.
So he was bleeding from the back of the head
He was.
on the right-hand side.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. And then was it you on the body cam who briefed the detectives, Detective Moffat and Detective Inklin in the front yard?
Yes, I made contact with him. Yes.
And then you had told them basically what Alex had conveyed to you, what happened.
Yes.
And then what did they do with that information? Did they just put it into a report?
I don't know. You'll have to ask them.
Okay. So your report goes to who after you're finished with it?
I sent it to my supervisor.
And who was that at the time? Do you remember?
That was Bill Nacella.
Oh, the same one.
Sergeant,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And then did you speak to the case agent on this case regarding this incident on July 11th?
I did at the time. That's when I walked up to them at the front door area.
Okay. And was Detective Moffat the case agent at that time?
Yes.
Okay. And now it's Detective Duncan, as far as you know?
As far as I know, I don't know for sure, but that's what I've been told.
Okay. And how long do you think that you were at the residence? What was the whole time before you guys left to go to the police station? Do you remember? Do you recall?
No, I do not. It would be in my CAD history on when I transported him from the home to the PD. So
Okay, guys, here's the update. So did I miss the objections first of all? Second of all, so I actually opened my front door. So they were talking in the front, my neighbor's front yard, the law, the cop or whatever was talking to him, and had like his flashlight out, like he was looking for something in the backyard. And they were talking. And so I actually opened my front door and like tried to peek my head out to see if I could hear anything. This is just, I can't not. But I'm like, I don't want to be like that person who, I don't want them to know I was trying to listen. I just like tried to, I stuck my little head out and I'm like trying to listen. I couldn't hear anything they were saying. Such a bummer. But they talked for a minute and now he's getting back in his car and that's the update. And I was going to try to get a picture. I literally got my phone. I was going to get a picture of them talking. But then as soon as I did that, he started to walk away and get back in the car. So, it's like one of those police SUV things, all official. Wow. Okay, so that's a good question from official here. Official saying, you said in other cases, jurors would hate this if it's intentionally objecting too many times. But in this case, it hits different. You're right, it does. Okay, you think he's pulling away. Police officer. Okay. So, but here's why. So what I mean is like, it depends on the witness. So for example, if you've got a witness, like for example, an emotional witness who was also in some way a victim. Let's take Murdoch, for example. Like, for example, when Buster's on the stand, right? Something like that. It just depends on the witness. Or if it's like, it will feel icky if there's a lot of objecting because, if it just feels, what's the right word? Like, a lack of compassion, if you will, rude, so you're right. It does hit different. And so that's why, I think in this case, I mean, this is just a law enforcement officer. It's like, second witness, Happy Annie says, because we know so many, that also could be the case. But also I think for me, it's, I think for me, it depends on the witness too. That's the big thing I would say. Okay, thank you for weighing in. I didn't miss any objections. Okay. No, it's sunny outside. It's sunny and cold because the weather changes 50 degrees at a time here. It's sunny. So that's why I mentioned the flashlight because I thought it was weird. It is 1:18 p.m. here, sunny outside, blue skies, even though we had that huge storm. I think it's because the system, like we went from, like I said, like 90 degrees, right? And then the temperature dropped to like 60 yesterday and and then we had that huge storm. And then now it's like going to be in the 30s. So, but yeah, so the flashlight, that's why I mentioned it because it's weird. It's sunny outside, but he was in the neighbor's backyard where there's like a fence over there and I can't really see it because his garage kind of blocks it. So that's why it's weird that he had the flashlight. That's why I mentioned it. I thought it was odd. It was one of those huge ones. So he was back there using the flashlight. I don't know how that's going to help in the broad daylight, but that's interesting. Well, no, I'll have to download that. Can you let me know? I'll have to download that for next time. So, and by the way, so I live in a house, right? So like, yeah, I guess that's probably pretty clear because like backyard and whatnot. But anyway, there wouldn't have been time for all that now. I wasn't prepared. It is sunny. It is sunny. You would have asked if you could have helped. Oh, you're saying, yeah, that's good thinking. I get too excited. I mean, you all heard me get excited, right? Like that's very rational. Like if I wasn't so excited, I probably could have been like, okay, let me think this through. It all happened so fast. I mean, they were only there for like what, 5 minutes maybe? So I didn't have time to like think it through, but yeah, that would have been a good way to go about it for sure. No, there's no noise complaint. No. I'm going to take a picture though, guys, so you can see exactly where the dude was. And I'm going to pull it up on here. Are you already that close, Twiz? Or no, I guess no, that makes sense. University of Idaho. Okay. 6 miles away. So are you driving? Are you going over there first? No, wait, hold on. No, that makes sense. Now I'm trying to picture the map. Right. So you're going to go by the University of Idaho on your way to Boise. That makes sense. Okay. Wow, that's exciting. Twiz drives. We need to make a Twiz driving one. That's fun. I'm glad we're going to be here for your journey. So I'm going to get a picture of this backyard situation. This is so crazy. How exciting.
I have to look at that, and I don't know, 40 minutes, half hour, 40 minutes, something like that.
Now, someone on the video, and I don't remember who it was, but put a phone into a evidence bag. Was that you?
I don't recollect that.
Okay. And then got into the car. Did someone ride with you to the police station from the residence? Just you and Alex were in the car?
Yes,
No other officers?
correct.
But before you got into the car, an officer came over and took his phone and put it in an evidence bag?
You're asking me for recollection. I don't remember that. It's probable because we usually try to bring their property to the area where we're going to. So it's probable.
I just didn't see it in your report, but I saw it on the body cam, so I wondered if you knew.
Oh, God.
Okay.
I'm
You don't
object
have
to
to-
the defendant testifying.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't have to. Exactly. She doesn't need to explain why she's asking a question. It is her testifying. Accurate.
All right. Please only ask questions.
Sure.
When you make statements about
That's
what
the
you
thing.
saw or heard, that's testimony.
Yes, that's the thing. She can only ask questions. That is the thing. Remember, in opening jury instructions, they are always told testimony comes from the witness stand. Anything the lawyers, or in this case, the Lori, says is not testimony, right? They can only ask questions. So by the way, I'm going to pull up this picture for you guys here.
I apologize, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Your apologies. You don't, dude. Oh my God.
So it says in your report that you were asked by Detective Moffett to transport Alex to the police station, not handcuffed. Is that correct?
Yes,
And to the downstairs interview room. I'm assuming that's at Chandler Police Department,
it is.
correct? Okay. And it was just the two of you in the car on the ride there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Don't say thank you.
Then when you arrived at the police station, what happened next?
Walked him up to the room, had him sit down, or I think brought him some water, I think. And the detective was literally behind me. It wasn't very long before he walked into the room.
So then Detective Moffett took over and you were excused?
Yes,
Okay. And then was that the extent of your duty
it was.
at that time? And did you leave the police station after that?
Yes.
Did you stay and observe the interview?
No.
So Detective Moffett took over for you and you departed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, happy Annie about being in an apartment. I love that. I love that. Well done, you guys. Yeah, Lori apologizes for great point here from DSN. Lori apologizes for small slights, but takes no responsibility for the major unalivings that follow in her wake. Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to show you guys the picture of my backyard. I literally just took this. So this will help because I wanted, it's like, I want you guys to see, I wish you could have seen what I was seeing. It all happened so fast. So I just have to unshare, reshare. Okay. Literally just took this picture from my window as I'm standing here. Because where I live stream and where I teach is literally, I'm surrounded by windows. So one of them faces like the side and then this one faces the backyard. This is where I'm facing when I'm standing here. So this is my backyard. Okay. Well, part of it. So initially there's my backyard. Actually, so if you look, let me zoom in. So there where the little hand is, just look at the little hand. Those are my backyard steps. Those are the steps from my house. Okay. So then that garage, that's the neighbor's garage. Okay. And this is the one you guys have probably heard me talk about how he's got fucking floodlights all over the place with motion activated sensors that are really, 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 really sensitive. And I love it. And here's why. Because at night, so you can see some of them actually, let me zoom in and up here. You can see some of them on here, but he's got them all over the place. You can see there's one there. So, but basically like at night, and y'all have probably heard me live streaming when this happens. if like even a squirrel or a bird or something goes by in the backyard, and he has it for a big range. So it covers like, let me zoom back out. Like it covers part of my yard, which I love. So like, let's just say there's a cute animal over here where the little hand is. That light is going to light up the entire thing, like as much as broad daylight for the entire area. I don't know how he even has it set up like that, but you can see everything. So if there's a fox, if there's a raccoon, if there's any cute little animal anywhere in this entire, like basically even probably more of an area than this picture is where it will trigger that motion sensor, and the light covers more than even what this picture is in this area. Like it's a ton. So you could see all the cute animals. So that's why I'm like, I love it, because then I don't miss anything. But basically, yeah, so that's his garage. And then, so where like the division, I guess, where the yard, like my yard ends where his little driveway thing to the garage starts, right? So then, so like if I zoom in, so the backyard area. So here's what I saw, like when I first saw the cop. I saw the dude walking, if you just follow the little hand, I saw a law enforcement officer walking, going down this way, and then this is why it was problematic, because he went all the way back, and then my view was blocked by the stupid garage, right? You see what I mean? So my backyard, like I've got like bushes and shit back there that come up further than in his backyard, which you can kind of tell. So he's got further back, and then there's like, I guess, a fence. I don't really even know what's back there. But whatever's back there, there's things that are back there. I can't see them, unfortunately. And no matter where I go in my yard, my view for that is obscured by this freaking garage. So he went all the way back there. Let me zoom in more. So he went all the way back there with the flashlight behind that garage. And then he was back there for a couple minutes. And then he came back out. And then he talked to my neighbor for a couple minutes. And then he left. So that's the full story. That's the full story. What are you guys saying in the chat? Let me take a look. Oh, $10,000 for a house. That's not a bad deal. So, yeah. Okay, now we'll go back to the trial here. But, no squirrel left behind, right? So I wanted you guys to see what I was seeing. Do you see what I see? You didn't, but now you do. Sorry. Okay. So here we go. Okay.
You said when you spoke to Alex that he was cooperative.
I figured,
Is
yeah.
that correct?
Yes.
Is it possible he could have been in shock?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
From your observation, how long did the cut on Alex's head bleed? I mean, you were with him for that 40 minutes, and how long do you think it was bleeding?
Well, I couldn't answer that because I wasn't standing in the back of his head when I first made contact with him. So to be honest with you, I don't know when it started. So I don't have the minutes.
Did it appear to be bleeding when he exited the
More than
house?
22
or no?
seconds.
I didn't look at the back of his head right away when he exited the house.
When was the first time that you looked at it? About how long after he exited?
I can't answer time-wise, but it was during that time I had him seated at the sidewalk when I was talking to him.
Okay. Before he moved over or after?
Oh, after he moved over.
Okay. Did you ever enter into the house?
No.
I'm going to ask you guys a question. So I believe court goes live again in half an hour. Now, it doesn't mean that they will start on time, but that is when the cameras are able to be back up. I don't know who will be the next witness. Let me see who else comes and testifies on the stage. Oh, they take a break here in a second. Let me play this until the break, and then I'll say what I was going to say.
You were just there in the front yard
Yes.
the whole time? Okay. When you talked to the two detectives in the front yard and gave them your synopsis of what had happened, you said they got into a domestic fight consisted.
Objection.
Woo!
Sorry,
I'm going to sustain the objection.
Sweet.
what was the legal objection?
Oh my God.
Hearsay.
What the fuck? This right here is why Lori deserves to be right here. Listen to that, guys. You're never going to hear that, I would imagine, from a pro se defendant ever. This is why she's on a different level than the other pro ses. I'm sorry, what was the legal objection? I'm surprised to hear that. Now, she's totally allowed to ask that question. Lawyers do it all the time. Lawyers do it all the time. Did not expect that from her. Wow. Holy fuck.
What had happened?
Spicy.
You said they got into a domestic fight consistent.
Objection.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
What was the legal objection?
Hearsay.
Hearsay.
Oh, I was just reading his report. Okay.
That objection, no question.
Please
You can't just read things into the record. Oh my God. Oh my
ask the
God.
next question.
You have to ask a question. Ugh. Amazing. I love that hold on. The judge says the answers at the same time. That's why, because the judge already knew what it was. Now, having said that, this is kind of reminiscent of like the Judge Bev thing, right? No, but it's very different in this case because with Judge Bev, there would be objections from, like, for example, in the first trial from Lolly that I don't know that it was objectionable. He didn't state the grounds. And of course, Judge Bev would just sustain it. And it's just a way for her to stay biased. But in this case, it was very obviously hearsay. And that's why I don't think there was any fault here from the state or from the, not stating their grounds. And for the judge also saying hearsay. He already knew what it was. This is amazing.
Hearsay.
Oh, I was just,
Sustain the objection.
what was the legal objection?
Hearsay.
Hearsay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was just reading his report. Okay.
That objection,
You can't just read his report.
no question.
Wow. That's a double one. So that's no question pending. That's a double objection.
Your next question.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I'm so flabbergasted. I just said heck. I don't know if I've ever said that word baby in my life ever. That's where I'm at with this. This is crazy.
You said in your report that at one point, Alex's niece grabbed the bat.
Objection.
Hold on.
Hearsay.
That's
Improper
hearsay.
question.
Okay. You can't ask. Hearsay.
No wonder they take a break. Holy fuck.
You said in your report that at one point, Alex's niece grabbed the bat.
Objection.
Hold on.
Hearsay.
That's
Improper
hearsay.
question.
Okay. You can't ask. Hearsay. Please ask your next question.
Okay. Double objection. So here's what's going on there. I guarantee you that what she's reading in the report is what was told to him because this officer doesn't know what happened. So let me point. I want to break this down for you guys. Listen to the way Lori asked the question here.
You said in your report that at one point, Alex's niece grabbed the bat.
Objection.
So the question was, or it's not even a question, but she's saying, you said in your report that at one point Alex's niece grabbed the bat. I guarantee you that's not what it says. It says that, but I guarantee you he's reporting what he's being told by Alex because he doesn't actually know. So the way she's asking the question makes it seem like this officer was there and actually saw it. Like that's part of the issue here. But what the reason I'm mentioning that is to show Lori asked it this way, or Lori's saying it this way on purpose, right? She's smart. She's smart, guys. Because if this happens sometimes in trials, right? Because testimony will, like, it's an adversarial system. One side has to object. If they don't object, this happens all the time where there's an objection. Somebody's asleep at the wheel, I will say. They're not paying attention. And if they don't object, it comes in. So let's just back this up one more time. I want to break this down for you guys here. Like what would have happened if the state didn't object? Okay, hang on.
You said in your report that at one point, Alex's niece grabbed the bat.
Objection.
Okay, if they didn't object, I don't know what she was going to finish this with, but the point, you said in your report that at some point Alex's niece grabbed the bat and whatever else it would be. If they weren't paying attention to object, then what the jury would hear is that this officer was verifying that is what happened, right? You see what I'm saying? She did it that way on purpose. She's smart. And the state, that's crazy. The state's not going to be able to just take a nap. Wow. Double objection too.
Hold on.
Hearsay.
Wow.
That's
Improper
hearsay.
question.
Improper question.
Okay. You can't ask.
Wow.
Hearsay. Please ask your next question.
Oh my God. Right.
Did Alex tell you that he got hit in the head with the bat?
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay prior ruling.
Yeah. It's sustained.
That means there's a motion to eliminate.
You can't ask questions of what Alex said.
Wow. So there's a motion. Okay, so that gives us more insight. There's a motion in limine about this that she cannot ask questions about what Alex said. And so that means because there's a prior ruling, it means she knows that. It goes beyond hearsay. It goes beyond hearsay. It means there was previous pretrial business going on about this. She cannot ask questions about what Alex said, and she knows this, and she's doing it anyway. Wow.
So you observed that he had this bump on his head, but you didn't know how he got it. Is that correct?
No.
I'll tell you what she's trying to do
That's not
here. I'll tell you what she's trying to do here. She's trying to use this officer to validate her story and her theory, her story of what happened, and also what Alex said happened. But which we know because of having background in this case and seeing the in his interview. She's trying to use this officer to validate her story. That's what she's trying to do.
Correct.
It's a smart strategy. What else are you going to do, right? Literally, it's the best strategy she could take.
You didn't know how he got it. Is that correct?
I was told how he got it, which is different than me knowing how he got it, if that makes any sense.
Correct. You did not witness it, is what you're saying.
Correct.
But you knew that he had an injury to the back of his head on the right side.
I did.
Correct. Okay.
Lori. Great.
And how did you obtain that information?
No.
You can't answer if it calls for hearsay.
Did you observe the next door neighbor come out in her nightgown to speak to me?
Oh my God, in her nightgown.
I did.
And then there was another neighbor on the other side that came out that you told him to go back into his house? Is that
Well, he was
correct?
a neighbor, but it was just some guy. Yeah, I assumed he was a neighbor.
Right. So they had blocked off the street so the neighbors couldn't really exit the neighborhood. They couldn't go to school or work, or it's kind of an issue there.
Not really. I mean, when one car told us the layout of the neighborhood, then we realized that was the only person that wanted to exit. They told us they couldn't exit, so we just fixed it so anyone else could leave.
Right. But they were trying to come up to me to find out what was happening.
Objection,
Okay.
speculation, hearsay.
I'll sustain the objection. Let's take our afternoon break for
Okay,
the staff.
a couple things. The reason she's doing this is so funny. This doesn't actually matter, except she's trying to save face because she knows it looks bad about her being like, oh, sorry, neighbors, right? And she's trying to find a way to be like, no, that was a normal thing to say. It's not, honestly, she's smart. She's smart. I don't know that really should be her focus here, but see, she cares about her ego is going to focus sometimes on the wrong things. And that's an example of that, but also I have to count how many objections there are.
Car told us the layout of the neighborhood, then we realized that was the only person that wanted to exit. They told us they couldn't exit, so we just fixed it so anyone else could leave.
Right. But they were trying to come up to me to find out what was happening.
Objection,
Okay.
speculation, hearsay.
I'll sustain the objection. Let's take our afternoon break for the staff and the jurors. We're going to take a 15-minute stretch restroom break. Please remember the admonition.
All right, for the jury.
So what I was going to say, so let me just see here.
Juror 15. Juror 15.
Oh.
Is that your phone on the?
Okay, so they have the rest of that dude, and then let me see what happens. Then they have another witness, and then they go away, and then they come back. I'm gonna see, we might be able to actually finish the rest of this testimony, guys, before 2 o'clock, because 2 o'clock is when today's court feed should start. So why does he come? Hold on. Goes away. Okay.
But you did brief the detectives before you headed to the police station. Is that correct?
I did.
And who was there? Do you remember?
They're allowed to have their phones. I think that he just said he wanted them to know they left their phone behind because, it's like personal belongings, like as to help them. I'm on Eastern time. So yeah. So that's why when I said 2 o'clock, I already was converting it to my time for the court. Like that's what the court feeds. That's what time in for me, they're supposed to come on. But yeah, they're allowed to have their phones. They're just not supposed to be using them. And I'm sure they're not using them.
Nate Moffat, Cassie, I think my
Is that
sergeant.
Detective Inkland? I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt you.
No.
Oh.
And just off recollection, I think there was another one, but off of recollection, I don't remember.
And that was about how long before you left to go to the police station?
10 minutes maybe.
So in 20 minutes.
And how long do you think you were speaking with them?
In 20 minutes is when the new day should start.
Under a minute.
If it's
Under a minute?
time.
Yes.
For the briefing?
Yes.
So all of the court feeds say they're starting at 2 o'clock my time. So in 20 minutes is when if they start on time is when we should have the next day for Lori today.
Did you meet with the prosecutor to go over your testimony today?
I did.
When was that?
2 weeks ago, maybe.
You're allowed to do that.
How long did that meeting last?
Right.
Probably.
That's right. If you go to right, you can't take your phones inside. Right. That's correct. If you're on the jury, it's different. If you're on the jury, it's different. And it matters because they could have a family emergency or something come up, right? Like they have to have their phones on silent. I don't even think they have to have them brought up. They have to have them on silent. If they have a family emergency or something like that, they can't, so but yeah, so it's normal for jurors to have special, they can have, I'm sure they can have water and stuff like that. Other things like if you're a normal person going in the courthouse, you can't have shit. Jurors can.
Probably around an hour total.
Did you review this report before you came to testify today as well?
I did.
They often do have their own entrance. It just depends on the case and the courthouse.
And it was not part of your duty to check anything in the perimeter. You weren't looking for evidence. You were just dealing with the shooter. Is that correct?
Well, not just the shooter, but scene management, making sure the resources were en route. But yes, managed.
So
What all does that-
usually in courts, you have to walk through a metal detector or whatever and like scan your belongings through, just like at an airport or whatever. I would imagine they would only pat you down if like something sets the thingy off. For jurors, I doubt they pat them down or do any of that. I mean, they probably have to walk through the metal detector, but they're not going to get patted down. So yeah, so like I was saying, it works out, right? If you see how much is left, I bet we can finish this day's testimony right on time for the two, now it's 18 minutes. I bet we can finish it and then we can start the next day.
Does that entail scene management?
Well, once we knew there was not a threat out, I instructed Officer Wiz to set up an inner and outer perimeter with crime scene tape.
What else?
Make sure I had a supervisor en route, and then manage the people that walked up to the scene.
Who was that supervisor en route? Do you know?
Bill Nacella, my sergeant.
How many people do you think came up to you at that scene?
Well, not up to me, but I instructed one gentleman that was walking on the sidewalk towards us. He needed to just leave the area. This didn't concern him. And then you and your daughter walked up to me, and I just asked you to go back to your car.
Did you have any conversations with your supervisor when he arrived?
I did.
When was that?
At some point between me arriving on scene and me leaving the scene.
Closer to arriving or closer to leaving? Maybe.
Chocolate milkshake says about halftime.
Okay. How long do you think that conversation was?
Well, you saw it on the body worn camera, so a minute and a half, maybe.
And he was just checking in with you to make sure everything was going well, that you were scene managing. Is that correct?
Objection, relevance,
Sweet.
and hearsay.
Well, overruled, he can answer.
I was briefing him on what I knew thus far, what I was told.
Up to 25.
And that was less than a minute?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
So it took less than a minute to brief him on everything that had happened that day so far?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
Wait.
And it took less than a minute to brief the detectives as well of what happened that day?
An objection, asked and answered.
I'll allow that one. Go ahead.
Not what happened, what my portion was and what I knew happened.
So what you wrote in your report, basically, what you were told. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it took you 3 pages to write.
Dude, I'll tell you, here's the thing. I'll tell you why she asked that. Interesting. I'll tell you why she asked that. That is interesting. That point, okay. She's trying to point out that hearsay is allowed in certain cases and not in others. Okay, so remember, they can't get into, wow. Okay, she can't get into, oh my God, my neighbor's going in his backyard. What's he doing? She can't get into, oh my God, he's unlocking his shed. There's so much happening. She can't get into what or he's locking it, and now he's shaking his head like he's mad at something. Interesting. Okay. She can't get into, sorry. She can't get into what Alex told them, right? Including what he wrote in his report of what Alex told them. But he is allowed to testify to and answer questions about what the other officers told him. There's a big difference there for many reasons, but Lori doesn't care about that legally, like the legal reasons why that is different. In every case, it's going to be different, okay? Like, what I mean is that what other officers tell you, if you're another law enforcement officer, is part of their job, and that has plenty of reasons why it's either A, not hearsay, or B, has exceptions. And it's completely different when it's a lay witness or if it's someone who was involved in the crime, let alone somebody who's also would have been charged with conspiracy and also is deceased. Like, there's so many reasons why, but Lori doesn't care about that. What she's trying to make clear, I don't know to who, I think it's just for her, like, she wants to make the point for, like, because it matters to her, that she feels like it's unfair. That's what she's doing, that it's unfair. That's what she's highlighting. It's unfair that he can talk about what the other police officers told him and what was in the report the other police officers told him, but he can't talk about, or she can't ask him about what Alex said. That's what she's doing. So it's not dumb for her. Like, it's actually, again, it shows that she actually understands the rules, kind of, right? But like, remember when I said the thing about how she's going to do certain things that are only because of her ego? That's another example of that, because literally that this matters not at all to the jury. This has nothing to do with anything, but to her, she just wants to make the point that she feels like it's unfair. That's what it is.
What you were told, but it took you less than a minute to discuss that with the detectives. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Probably
The residence to the Chandler Police Department.
in miles, probably 8 miles, 10 miles, maybe.
How long do you think that took around?
10 to 15 minutes, maybe.
And then where did you enter into the police station? Is there a garage or something?
I don't recollect where I parked. There's various areas you can park at the police department to access the area that I access. So I'm unable to answer. I don't know where I parked.
Okay. And you were able to walk Alex into the police station. Is that correct?
Yes,
And he was unhandcuffed. Is that correct?
correct.
And then you took him into an interrogation room. Is that correct?
Yes,
And then Detective Moffat took over.
yes.
Just wanted to be clear. Okay. Did your supervisor, Nacella, did he come to the police station as well?
Not with me, nor did I talk to him. He might have, but I don't know.
You didn't see him there.
Correct.
Okay. But you saw Detective Moffat there?
Yes.
And you saw Detective Inkland there?
I don't remember Inkland. I just remember Moffat relieved me.
Okay. That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right.
Great.
Redirect.
Thank you. At the beginning of cross-examination, you were asked about Alex Cox's demeanor. Do you recall that?
I do.
And you had advised that he was nonchalant and calm, right?
Oh
Yes.
my God.
And you were asked whether or not you were nonchalant and calm too, correct?
Yes.
Had you just shot someone?
No.
You were asked if the firefighters were calm and nonchalant. Had they just shot someone?
As far as I know, no.
How about Officer Wiz? You said he was nonchalant and calm too. Had he just shot anyone?
Honestly, Lori was asking for this, guys. Lori was
So
asking
it's not
for it.
really exactly the same to compare you
Not the
to the
same.
shooter, right?
Definitely not the same.
Correct. I would not compare us.
When you went up to the scene, you had your gun drawn on him, correct?
Yes.
Still nonchalant and calm?
Yes.
You were asked a lot.
You know what the state is doing? The state is making fun. Okay, making fun. The state is using this word nonchalant. Here's what I will say. I'm getting the impression that these two women hate each other because the state is giving her the snark right back. The state is giving Lori what Lori deserves. This prosecutor has, what do they say? Has got Lori's number. Isn't that the saying? Like, she knows that Lori's not dumb. She knows that Lori is smart. She understands what Lori is doing. She gets it. And she's like calling her on her bullshit. That's why she's using this word so many times. That is hilarious. It's like making fun, but also like in a smart, like, that's how I'm interpreting this. Let me know what you guys think. Because she doesn't have to say nonchalant every time. That is so fucking funny. Wow.
Also about your nonchalant and calm appearance today in court.
Oh my
Are
God.
you stressed or just answering questions to the best of your knowledge?
This is her. Wow. The shade.
The latter, just
Amazing.
answering questions to the best of my knowledge.
You had to testify before?
I have.
You were asked about the injury to Alex Cox. We have seen the body-worn camera footage and we cut it off at some point. When Mr. Cox first came out of the house, he did not have his hand to his head, correct?
Correct.
You told us you didn't notice an injury at that point.
Correct.
When he first sat down on the curb before you moved him, did you notice an injury at that point?
I did not.
Was he touching his head at that point?
Recollection, I don't remember.
At some point in the video that we watched, did we see Alex Cox touch his head?
Yes.
When you were watching him, did you at times see him rubbing his head?
Yes.
The towel or paper towel that was in his hand, was that the only item you ever saw him using to rub or touch his head?
Yes.
Was it soaked or saturated in blood?
No.
Can we see it on the body cam that it's mostly white?
Yes.
So if we want to really know how long it was that he was seated before he touched his head, we could watch the time on the body cam, right?
Yes.
In case the jury is so concerned with this, which I'm sure they're not, but like if for some reason they want to be concerned with that amount of time and he didn't know off the top of his head, she's saying that for the jury. So the jury, if they want to, when they go back to deliberate, they can take a look and they can figure out how long it is. They can figure out how long.
When we met, did you have to watch that entire body cam?
Yes.
And is that when you actually initialed it, exhibit number 1 there, so that you would recognize it in court?
Yes.
You were asked about when you arrived and when you later transported. Help refresh your recollection as to when you had at least taken him to the precinct.
Yes.
If I could have my paralegal bring.
Refresh his recollection.
Does that help refresh your recollection as to when you arrived back at the precinct with Alex Cox?
It does.
And when was that?
9:18 and 19 seconds.
And so the 911 call was at 8:36 a.m.?
That's when I received it. It could have come into the dispatch a few minutes earlier.
And you said you arrived and we saw you on the body cam right after Officer Where's Biggie, who got there around 8:41?
Yes.
So you were with Alex Cox at the scene and talking to Lori Vallow and her daughter and doing those briefings in that 20, 30 minutes?
Yes.
No other questions, Your Honor?
All right, I see at least one juror question in a bin. If there are any juror
Yay!
questions, please pass them down at this time.
Oh my God, a juror question. Oh my God. What a treat. I love that. Oh, do we not get to hear it? No. No, I guess they're going to talk about it and then maybe he'll read it out loud. Let's see.
And I don't know if the,
Go ahead, state the follow-up question.
just one question, and I don't know if the CAD will help you answer that. Do you know when you were finished with this call? What time it was when you were finished or released from this call and able to go back out?
It was probably 5 minutes after, maybe 10, probably 10 minutes. I probably used the restroom, to be honest with you, and got something to drink at the station, water. So maybe 10 or 15 minutes after the detective came in the room is when I hit the 10-8 button and I went and took other calls for service.
Okay, so you were done with this call before the end of your shift?
Oh, yes.
Okay, you didn't go back to the scene to help with scene security or anything like that?
No.
No other questions?
Did the defendant have any follow-up?
No, we're fine, Your Honor.
All right, this witness can step down.
Excellent.
I'm gonna
Next
give it to you
witness.
now.
I'm setting up the next stream, by the way, guys.
You can call your next witness. All right, you're gonna come up this little ramp. Have a seat right
Perfect.
here.
Sir, would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Scott Cowden,
And where do you work?
Chandler Fire Department.
How long have you worked there?
Almost 26 years.
And talk to you a little bit about what firefighters do. Do you just respond to fires or are you also responsible for something else?
No, the majority of our job is going to be EMS medical calls.
What kind of training do you have to work as a firefighter and deal with medical calls?
When you're hired, you're going to go through an academy that will certify you as a state firefighter. Typically, you're going to already be certified as an EMT. And then during the course of your career, I went to paramedic school, graduated from that in probably 2007.
Can you tell us what the difference is between a paramedic and an EMT?
EMT would just be kind of the more basic kind of entry level position. Paramedic is more advanced, so you have more advanced training. There's more advanced skills that you could perform. Some of our equipment would only be able to be used and utilized and performed by a paramedic.
As both a EMT or a paramedic, are you trained to perform CPR?
Yes.
And can you tell us, have you ever been a CPR instructor yourself?
Yes, I was a CPR instructor for probably over 12 years.
Was that for other firefighters?
I was certified through American Heart Association, a contract employee with Dignity Health. They have a variety of different classes that could be for just the lay rescuer, lay person that wants to know how to do CPR. They have classes that might be for certain businesses that want their employees. And then there's healthcare provider classes that it could be firefighters, nurses that are attending to be recertified. Every 2 years, you have to have that certification recertified.
Can you tell us what CPR is?
It stands for cardiopulmonary resuscitation. So you're kind of acting as the heart. The heart has stopped beating, so no blood is flowing through the body. You're doing chest compressions on the chest, and you're pumping and pushing that blood to the body.
When would you give CPR to a person?
If they don't have a pulse, you confirm that just by checking for a pulse, and you don't feel that the heart isn't beating, and you would need to start chest compressions.
What is the point of that, of doing those chest compressions? You said moving the blood through the body. Why?
You're trying to give them the chance, increase their chance of survival. I don't know what maybe the latest numbers and statistics might say, but in the past I've seen it say that if somebody's starts CPR within the first few minutes, it can double or triple their chances of surviving.
When you are called to a scene, are you guys being given updates by the 911 operator to your dispatch so you know what to expect?
Yeah, so you get dispatched and you already have an idea of the type of call, and then en route we call it PTI, and that will come across the computer screen. And so now you have more information of what you're kind of walking into, so you can kind of game plan it a little bit more.
If somebody calls 911 and doesn't know how to do CPR, what happens?
My understanding is that 911 would talk them through that and give them instructions of what to do.
Okay. When you are giving CPR, you talked about chest compressions. Can you talk to us about, is there any physical identification that you might observe on a person who has had CPR chest compressions?
That I might see.
After a person has been given chest compressions?
Okay.
Yes. So you need to perform it in the right location. So it's the lower half of the sternum or breast.
Just going to that issue from before with that was interesting, right? About the whole thing. Do you give when to do CPR, when not to do it, when you've got the chest injuries, right?
To kind of find that, it's more helpful if you can see the skin, maybe lift up the shirt. So that's typically something we're going to want to do. If CPR has been done and it's been done effectively enough, you can see almost like a depression or an impression that is left there on the skin. Because you need to do it forceful enough and deep enough that you're actually compressing the heart to push the blood.
It needs to be forceful and deep, guys.
Said you might see a depression. Does that not just pop right back out?
No, you'll still see it. You'll see it like if you stop CPR during the call for whatever reason that it might be appropriate, and then you go back to resuming CPR, you'll see where your hands were. That area can be vulnerable to breaking. Ribs can break during CPR, so there's typically depression in the chest.
Do you ever actually hear anything?
P Fox says he needs to get his iron checked for real. Yes. And also to me, it looks like he's wearing eyeliner. DSN. Why do firefighters wear red suspenders to keep their pants up? That is hilarious. Wait, hold on. Happy Andy, are you directing this to me? You're saying I don't get the point of this questioning, and then you're saying you do. I don't know. I'm just trying to clarify. So by the way, I also did just set up the next live stream, and so this should redirect into that. I think we're going to finish right on time because I would imagine they'll be a little bit behind. So this will redirect into that. We're just going to finish up with this witness. So what's important though, what he's saying though, in case the jury was concerned about this whole CPR thing, is like, yes, it's only certain people who have the certain enough amount of training who know how to do chest compressions on somebody with those type of injuries would be able to do it. And that, for example, that other first responder, right, the big dude, he wouldn't have known how to do it. Not his fault, not his job. Same thing with like instructing somebody over the phone or whatever. That's what I'm getting out of this right here so far.
Anything when you are giving someone chest compressions?
I for sure feel it. I don't know if it's audible enough to hear it, especially with maybe the rest of the commotion that's going on, but you definitely feel that crunch or that crack. I kind of compare it to like if you're cracking your knuckles in your hands or something, your fingers. It kind of feels like something like that, but more extreme, I guess.
And this is something that you have felt multiple times in doing CPR?
Yes, and teaching CPR, you want to forewarn people of that too, that to kind of expect that and not necessarily kind of be alarmed. You don't want them to think they've caused more harm necessarily.
Does that crack or crunch occur each time you restart CPR in the same patient?
No, it's typically just the first couple of times.
Have you previously performed CPR on a person who was shot?
I'm sure I probably have.
The court feed cuts out. Interesting. Oh yeah, I remember seeing this when I was looking ahead. Okay, so we lose the court feed for a minute here. Okay.
And your decision making on what you should do next when you see this patient that is lifeless?
I mean, it makes you think that there's a increased likelihood of survival possibly, until we can, starting CPR is still appropriate to do, and then we can utilize some of the rest of our equipment. We can put an EKG machine on. We can actually see what the heart is doing. We can look at the rhythm. We
Twiz for the
wouldn't want to call a patient before like taking some additional steps.
Okay. Who performed CPR?
I did.
And I'll put up exhibit 4 here. Do you recognize who these people are?
Yes.
And who are they?
So standing to the left is Captain Keller. He's documenting. Standing to the right is firefighter Kaczynski. And then kneeling down back towards us is myself. And then kneeling down where you're pointing is firefighter Fife.
When you first began performing CPR, can you tell us what you felt?
So at first, I didn't see a depression that would typically be left from somebody else previously doing compressions. So I thought that was odd considering the information we had in route.
Okay. Also, I will say right now, just so you guys know, I have the court feed pulled up for today, right? As expected, they're not on time. There's nothing happening yet, but I have it pulled up and ready to go. Like I said, we will likely finish this before. What is going on? My neighbor's got some gasoline. Okay, interesting.
I started doing compressions. I felt that initial crack and crunch
Okay,
for probably
sorry,
the
I
first
was setting
couple of compressions that again you would typically feel when you're first starting compressions and if you're going hard enough and deep enough.
Hard enough and deep enough.
How long did you do CPR before you evaluated and utilized any other means to see if he might still be alive, savable?
If I had to estimate, I think I was probably doing CPR chest compressions for at least a minute. It probably took them at least 30 seconds to a minute to maybe get in to the house where I was after I entered. They've got to set down that equipment and get some of that out. So I feel like at least a minute is a fair assessment.
What happened next? Is there some way to check his heart to see if there's
Right.
activity, or what do you do?
Yeah, so I was doing chest compressions. I remember mentioning, because there's bullet holes going through them. So I remember mentioning to firefighter Kaczynski when she went to cut the shirt to not cut through a bullet hole. So she kind of went along the side. That's exposing the chest. So that way then we can put our heart monitor and perform an EKG on Charles to kind of see what his rhythm is doing. A person can typically still do chest compressions while they're doing that, and they can kind of work around you. But at some point in time, you're going to have to stop. That way you can just look at what the machine is showing you and telling you.
Was there any heart activity when you put on those EKG?
No, it was what we would call asystole, and it's just a flat line on the screen. There's no electrical activity of the heart.
At some point, you said you saw gunshot wounds. Do you recall how many you saw in the front there?
I saw 2.
Do you ever look to see if there's exit wounds?
We did roll him. I seem to recall and remember that we rolled him my way. I feel like the other 2 firefighters were then on that other side. Firefighter Kaczynski, who's the one that's standing up, I feel like she had a better view of what those look like since he was rolled my way. But I remember her commenting that there was 2 wounds on that backside of the patient.
So when you say he was rolled towards you, he's rolled towards this mirror over here?
Correct.
Okay. When you had stopped doing the CPR to roll him and he goes back, did you notice the depression in his chest now?
After I resumed CPR, yes. It makes it kind of easier to find your landmark. So it's something that you typically look for.
So it was not there when you first started CPR,
Correct.
but it was after you had performed it.
Correct.
Do you wear gloves when you do this?
Yes.
Did you have blood on your gloves after you were doing CPR?
Yes.
You told us that when you first
Okay, I'm gonna jump ahead. It looks like they're having some discussion outside the presence of the jury, and the cameras came off from the court feed. I'm gonna jump ahead to cross, and so that way we can jump over to the next day. And I'm just monitoring the situation, because what I'm seeing with this, there's not going to be any objections, I don't think, from Lori. But what will happen is she'll have cross, and there might be a redirect. So let's just see
It
where.
was pointed out, I didn't have a good her.
Ross.
Victim about Charles that made you think that CPR may not have been performed on him prior to you arriving.
During my
After you guys rolled him, saw the modeling and the lividity,
sub impressions, the shirt
So
color,
no
so he can
CPR was
document
done
it,
until this
rolling
came
back what we found, what are we thinking. What's on the documentation, I would agree with that. I know we responded in the morning. It was
Okay.
any life-saving means.
in contact at 8:45. I know the dispatch screen that will have like times of responding and things like that. So I see our first monitored rhythm is the ACF.
Well, let me say, so
Okay.
Is
Here we go.
continuing. Ross return response.
Ross.
Spontaneous circulation, no. So that would probably be the appropriate time.
after, well, let me say, so does it seem about right that you were with this
Let me
patient for
say.
maybe 3 or so minutes? Actively working.
Actively working, I think probably close to 5 minutes.
And once he's called, what do you do at the scene? What do you do with all your equipment?
So once he's called, it's kind of a PDC now. So we're gonna leave the body. We're gonna gather up what we can, our equipment. Sometimes there's some stuff we might need to leave behind. It's necessary to leave on the patient. But
So like the EKG monitors that are stuck on him, you leave those on him.
yeah, we can disconnect those exactly and bring the cables with us.
When you told us when you arrived that you noticed a individual with a police officer near the driveway.
Or no, this is not Lori. This is the prosecutor still. Sounded like Lori for a second. Sorry, not Cross. Thank you, Happy. And he says the most important thing to take away from the session was that CPR. I know you meant CPR had not been done, even though they reported they had done it. Right. Of course. Right. Yeah.
Correct.
Did you see that same person still outside when you exited?
Yes.
Did you notice any?
I mean, classic though, right? I mean, this happens in like so many cases, right? Whenever they say they've done it, they've like never done it for the most part.
Bleeding or obvious injuries to that person?
No.
Did you make an assumption as to who that was?
Yes, our PTI en route said
So
brother
let me move
May
on
not
to
be-
Cross.
that is strong that we might not be able to perform chest compressions hard enough and deep enough.
Deep enough.
Sometimes the
I'm
patient is
wondering if they don't get to Cross and they're going to start Cross today.
in a bed.
That's
So mattress has give to it. Compressions won't be as effective. You want to get him to the floor. Obviously, he was already on the floor, so that aids chest compressions.
Was there anything about this male that you saw when you observed him entering or exiting that made you believe that he had been injured?
No.
Based upon your training and experience and what you observed and did in this case, would you agree that the victim, Charles Vallow, was dead before you entered the house?
Yes.
Based upon your training and experience and what you observed and did in this case, would you agree that it was highly unlikely that anyone had performed CPR on Charles Vallow prior to you doing that?
Yes.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
All right, Cross.
Oh, do they do it? Do they not?
Go now? Or it's 4:30. I didn't know if you wanted
How long do you anticipate your
He's pulling a pooch.
cross-examination?
to. It could take a while, Your Honor.
It could take a while. Oh my God, it could take a while. I'm dying.
All right, we'll break for
It
the
could take a while. Literally, she's pulling a pooch. Did she watch that trial? She would have been in custody. I mean, I know there's other attorneys that do it, but Poot was notorious for this every day at 4:30. It could, dude. Okay. So there you have it. Literally, that is so funny. Okay. So now, dude. All right. So let me pull up today. This is today. All right. This is live. Juror 16 is being questioned. What we're going to do, there's a little bit of activity before they go off the record. So let's go to a little bit of activity. A little bit of activity.
room here on the side of the courtroom any minute now. When that happens, we will bring in juror number 16 for some questioning. When juror 16 comes into the courtroom and answers the questions, I'm not going to allow a recording of that. So we'll.
Oh wait, fuck.
We won't record.
Hang on.
There'll be no media
Sorry.
recording of that.
Sorry, I'm an idiot. I forgot. We have to change over to the next live stream. I'm an idiot. Okay, so this will redirect you guys automatically and we'll continue here. I wanted to set it up so that obviously day one recap is day one recap. So let me end this. I will see you guys over there. You should get shuttled over through Lori's portal automatically. See y'all in just a second. And here's the outro.
Someone make it make
Thing.